I'd like to call the meeting back to order, and I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Oden?
Here.
Ms. Riller Spurgeon?
Here.
Mr. Kleindienst?
Here. If you'll all please rise for the flag salute. If you'll join with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight's invocation is by our friend, Reverend Jim Tom from United Methodist Church. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Let us pray. Lord, teach us to pray. Some of us aren't skilled in the art of prayer, and as we draw near to you in thought, our spirits long for your spirit and reach out for you, longing to feel your nearness. We don't know how to express the deepest emotions that lie hidden in our hearts. In these moments, we have no polished phrases with which to impress one another, no finely molded, delicately turned clauses to present to you. Nor would we be confined to conventional petitions and repeat our prayers like the unwinding of a used film. We know, our Father, that we pray most when we are saying least. We know that we are closest to you when we have left behind the things that have held us captive for so long. We wouldn't be ignorant in prayer and, like children, make just want lists for you. Whether we pray that you will give us only what we need. We would not make our prayers the begging of you, an omnipotent God, to do what we want you to do. Rather, we pray that you would give us the vision, the courage that shall enlarge our horizons and stretch our faith to the adventure of seeking your loving will for our community, for our city. We thank you that you are hearing us even now. We thank you for the grace of prayer. And we thank you for yourself. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Tom. Before we go forward, this past weekend, one of Palm Springs' finest citizens suddenly passed away. A gentleman by the name of Paul Shepard. For those who have lived here for 25 years or more, know who Paul was. He was an outstanding realtor. Pretty much, I would say, a friend to everyone he met. He always tried to find ways to make you look good and appreciate you and celebrate your life. He was a very humble man, but he did so much and always so quietly. He was a realtor since '77. He was instrumental in building the current offices of the Board of Realtors here on Ramon. He has credentials as long as your arm in the real estate field. He was actively involved with Desert AIDS Project. Very athletic individual, from basketball to tennis. A great friend of both my wife and myself, but he was playing tennis, something he loved very much, in Los Angeles, and in the middle of a game had what we believe to be a stroke, and collapsed and died suddenly. I bring it to the community's attention because when you see somebody of this quality and this stature leave so quickly and so suddenly, not everyone knows about it. It's been discussed amongst close circles, but I just want the community to know that he is already missed, and we love him, and our feelings and our sentiments and our condolences go to Danny, who has been with Paul for 25 years, and they were a remarkable pair of gentlemen, and we miss Paul tremendously. And there will be a celebration of life scheduled on Saturday. I believe it's probably by some degree of invitation, but just want the community to know that. Additionally, we are coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the tragedies of 9/11. Although nothing large nor significant is planned, I'd like to notify the community that on September 11th, right out in front of City Hall at the flagpole, in conjunction with our public safety units, both fire and police, the American Red Cross. We're hoping that members of the airline industry will join us, and we hope that the entire community has a moment to share in the memorial. We're going to meet out at 6:30 in the morning, and we're just simply going to have a solemn remembrance of those moments in time when the actual tragedies occurred. We estimate that the entire memorial will last about 30 minutes. There's no long speeches. There's nothing more than just remembering what happened on that tragic day. So if your calendars allow you to give 30 minutes, very early in the morning, mind you, we welcome that, and we will get more public notices out, and we're working to get some press releases out. It is coming up quickly, and we just hope you can join us. Okay? On a more positive note, we do have a presentation tonight. We have an Outstanding Financial Reporting Award for the Department of Finance. We believe there are some representatives here from Finance. Is that correct? If I may read this, this is an award for June 30th, 2002. It basically awards us for our outstanding work. The City of Palm Springs has again been awarded the Certificate of Achievement in Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 2002 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report from the Government Finance Officers Association, and this is the 14th, repeat, 14th consecutive year the city has received this prestigious award. The award is given in recognition of meeting professional standards and criteria in reports which reflect a high level of quality in their annual financial statements and in the underlying accounting system. So I would like to present this back, if I may, to our finance department and ask for a round of applause for the great work they do.
Thank you for your great work. Thank you for your great work.
As always. Excellent. Thank you all for coming down here tonight and staying extra hours just to get that award. We have seen that, again, 14 years in a row, which speaks to the high quality of our finance department. I'll turn to our city clerk for a report on the posting of the agenda. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the agenda you have before you was posted in accordance with council procedures last Friday, August 29th. There was a supplemental agenda posted at that time. Item 32, however, will be withdrawn from that supplemental agenda, and the council will only be asked to hear item 32A on the supplemental agenda. That would be case 5.0667, the parking lot plan review for the Spa Resort Casino.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I'm not done.
Yes?
Additionally, you did receive materials tonight regarding item CRA-A. That should be in the yellow packet in front of you. And council will also be requested to move items 17 and 26 to the start of the business of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll turn to our City Attorney, Mr. David Alshire, for a closed session report, please. Mr. Alshire.
Yes, the council and agents met in closed session. The items listed on the closed session agenda, under real property negotiations with the agency, we discussed real property negotiations concerning the Prairie Schooner site. No action was taken. The item listed concerning the reservoir site was not discussed. The item listed concerning Garden Spring Apartments, we gave a status report. No action was taken. The item involving the property at Cherokee Drive was not discussed. The item concerning the city's real property negotiations with the Desert Water Agency were not discussed. The item involving 115 acres north of Tramview Road, parcel owned by BLM, we gave a status report. No action was taken. The item involving the Walter Family Partnership was not discussed. The item involving real property negotiations with Robert Kuznick, we gave a status report. No action was taken. The item involving real property negotiations involving the Catherine Finchy School site with Desert Healthcare District, we gave a status report. No action was taken. Litigation, the litigation matter, City of Palm Springs versus Miller, we gave a status report. No action was taken. Under exposure litigation and initiation of litigation, we discussed one matter of potential litigation. We gave a status report. No action was taken.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Alshire. With that, the Housing Authority, the Financing Authority, and the Industrial Development Authority have no business scheduled for tonight. And as Madam Clerk had indicated, we're going to move to item 17. Item 17 is a public hearing. It is Assessment District 161 Mountain Gate. It is with that I will announce that I have a conflict of interest based on a business relationship with the owners of the property, or the prior owners of the property, Mr. Mills.
And I will also be abstaining for the same reason, business-related, the previous owner.
Very good. And as the new rules by the FPC require, those with abstaining issues must leave the chamber. It's with that Mr. Mills and I will leave chamber and give the gavel to our Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Oden. Mr. Oden, you're in charge, sir.
We will move to item number 17, which is a public hearing, Assessment District 161, Mountain Gate. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Mountain Gate with the Century Home Development, and this is the assessment district that we've been working on for some time. And Mr. Barakian, our Director of Public Works and Engineer, will have the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This item will provide for the formation of Assessment District 161, which provides funding for the required improvements and associated costs on track 30963, which is the Century Vintage tracks on Highway 111 and Gateway. There are 5 resolutions for your consideration tonight, as outlined in the staff report, and there's also an order of proceedings that you have in front of you for following along. Staff recommends that the public hearing be held and that the resolutions be adopted. If there are any detailed questions, we have in the audience tonight representatives of Century Vintage Homes, the developer, the assessment engineer, Webb and Associates from Riverside, as well as the Mr. Schreiner from the City Attorney's Office. Staff recommends the holding of the public hearing, the adoption of the resolutions, and the formation of Assessment District 161.
This is the time and place for a public hearing for Assessment District number 161, Mountain Gate of the City of Palm Springs, the district relating to the engineer's report with respect to the Assessment District 161. The formation and extent of the district, the proposed acquisitions and improvements, and the proposed assessments on the property owners within the district described in the engineer's report. Before I formally open the hearing, are there any property owners or registered voters in the district who wish to file a written protest? If so, They must be filed with the city clerk at this time. For the purpose of the majority protest, only written protests will be considered. If there are any of those who have written protests, if you would please bring them forward at this time. The hearing is now officially open. We will first have presentations by staff and consultants about the formation of the district. After that, we will receive comments and questions and any oral protests from any interested persons. When all comments have been received, the hearing will be closed. City Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the notice of the public hearing has been waived, and although you still need to open the hearing, the affidavit attesting to the publication and mailing of such notice is on file in the office of the city clerk.
Staff and consultant presentations?
I already gave the staff presentation, so I would just reserve that for questions of the staff after the hearing.
Oral presentation and comments by the public at this time. Anyone who would like to make any comments regarding item number 17, please come forward now. You will have 5 minutes. This is regarding item 17 only. Which is the assessment district for Mountain Gate. Okay, City Clerk?
At this time, Mr. Mayor, I report that there has been no protest received.
Then at this time, we will close the public hearing. The council, if you have any questions regarding the proposed formation of the district, the levy and the assessment, and any information contained in the engineer's report.
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
At this time, I will ask the clerk to open the ballots and announce the results of the election.
We did receive one ballot, Mr. Mayor. That ballot did vote in favor of formation of the assessment district.
Okay. The results of the election have been unanimously in favor of the formation of the assessment district number 161 and the assessment on the property within the district. We may now proceed with further action for the district. Staff presentation.
Mr. Mayor, there really isn't any more staff presentation. You have the waiver of the 30-day cash collection period, I believe, in the packet. And it's now the appropriate time to consider the resolutions.
Okay.
There will be 5 resolutions before you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to state that the a resolution that you have in your packet concerning the water facilities agreement is only for the water facilities agreement and not for the power agreement with Southern California Edison. Therefore, that resolution needs to be revised to indicate just Desert Water Agency. With that revision, all 5 resolutions could be moved at one time if it's the council's pleasure.
Council?
That's fine. As far as I'm concerned.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
That is a motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it was moved by Councilmember Reller Spurgeon and seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Roll call.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills, absent. Ms. Roller Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Kleindienst, absent. Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It passes unanimously with the 3 able to vote on this and 2 abstentions. We'll now move to item 26. We can ask them.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on that particular item, you will need to allow public comments before the discussion, in that it is not a hearing, and the public comments for the agenda at large has not been heard as of yet. So you will need to open public comments for that item before proceeding with that item.
Okay. All right, then I will pass the gavel back to the mayor.
You guys got to be here for rolls, abstain again. Mr. Oden? Thank you. We're also going to move forward item number 26 on the agenda, which is the Racket Club Road sidewalk projects. And I'll turn to Mr. Oden and Mr. Mills for comments on this issue.
I will be abstaining on this item due to proximity to my home.
Thank you, Mr. Oden.
And I will be doing the same.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. We'll await you gentlemen, and then we'll proceed with item 26. Item 26 is moved advanced. We're going to open public comments only on item 26, and then we're going to return back to the normal agenda sequence. Anyone who wishes to address the council on item 26 during public comments, please come forward at this time. I see no cards before me. Is there anyone in the audience? Very good. Madam Clerk, if you'll show no one came forward on public comments, thank you. Item 26, Racket Club Road Sidewalk Project. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is recommended for your approval. It's a Caltrans application that we will receive reimbursement of a federal grant of $121,000. Our portion was $12,100. Our recommendation is approval, so we make sure we recapture those reimbursable funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Council, questions on staff's report?
I have no questions. I'll move the minute order.
Motion for approval by Ms. Rella Spurgeon. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Hodges. Thank you, ladies. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills, absent. Mr. Oden, absent. Ms. Roller Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It passes 3-0-2. And at this time, let's bring in the remainder of the council. And we'll return back to the normal sequence of the council and CRA agenda. With that, we'll adjourn as the CRA and reconvene as the Community Redevelopment Agency. First order of business before the agency is the approval of the minutes for the May 21st, June 18th, July 2nd, 16th, 23rd, and 30th minutes. Members of the agency, your pleasure.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden, second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. Any other comments, questions, or clarification?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
abstention on June 18th and July 30th, not present.
Duly noted. Any other comments? I'll be abstaining on the minutes of July 30th. Again, absence at the meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hodges.
I will be abstaining on all except July 23rd and July 30th.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Hodges. A motion for approval by Mr. Oden and a second by Ms. Rella Spurgeon with the noted abstentions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 5-0, deemed unanimous. There are no public hearings scheduled for the CRA tonight. We'll now turn into public comments. Those wishing to address the council, we'll call you later on tonight when we convene as the council. This is the CRA. Anyone wishing to address the Community Redevelopment Agency, please come forward at this time. We have a speaker. Good evening, sir. It's a 3-minute limit. The clock counts down from 3 minutes. If you'll give your name to the clerk, we appreciate you coming down.
Frank Tyson, 175 South Kauai. I would like to talk tonight about the impact of the proposed casino parking on Palm Springs. My testimony today is not just as a concerned citizen and business owner, but also as a professional in the field of planning and design. And I'll be testifying on behalf of the Coachella Valley Coalition for Responsible Sovereignty. I'll submit a resume at a later date, but I'd like to mention a few of my qualifications in addition to being a former Palm Springs Planning Commissioner, Professor of Urban Planning at the University of Southern California, gubernatorial appointee to the State Environmental Study Council, where I chair the Land Use Committee, Guggenheim Fellow, Kaufman International Design Award, and consultant to the Calcutta, India Metropolitan Planning Organization. Three minutes is not much, but I hope to also use 3 minutes of the council's time later on. And I will also submit a written document later. The issue is the sudden jump from 1,300 parking spaces to 3,000 to be ready within 90 days. This addition was not subject to environmental impact analysis or major citizen involvement through the Office of Neighborhood Involvement. I also don't think it has been tested to our general plan. There are many, many questions to be answered. First of all, is this amount really necessary? I mean, there's still the same amount of slot machines planned. Do we really need suddenly 1,700 more parking spaces? What is the impact on the environment, character, quality of life, and aesthetics of our community? Are there any other alternatives that have been explored? If not, are there any better locations? We really should have a comprehensive study to figure out where the best place is for these parking lots. How should those lots be interrelated to provide the minimal impact on the fragile fabric of our community? How do we minimize traffic impacts of this massive 24-hour-a-day operation? What about traffic safety? How will it affect the traffic in the immediate surrounding residential neighborhoods? How do we handle noise abatement? What about heat absorption and retention of these massive asphalt areas? Is the landscaping proposed sufficient to handle this heat absorption and retention problem? How much air pollution will this add? Thank you. I'll just continue at the next public comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the CRA during public comments, please come forward at this time.
Mayor Kleindienst and members of the council, my name is Pat Johansson. I, at this moment, am the chair of the Coachella Valley Coalition for Responsible Sovereignty. I've come before you in the past in that role to alert you to our concerns about infrastructure impacts, my tribal gaming, and our goal is to encourage our local jurisdiction to enter into reasonable agreements with tribes to protect the taxpayers from unnecessary intrusion, both financial and environmental. I have here tonight that. I have a letter addressed, actually this one is addressed to the Planning Commission, but that's okay, it's to you as well, that documents a review of our concerns in the matter of the Prairie Schooner property and your interest in moving forward to an agreement with the Agua Caliente for the 20-year lease on that property. We have serious concerns, and I think it is important that you, as a council, review these things. We have talked to a number of lawyers. We have traffic studies that we have done, and in every case, they are not supportive of the action that you intend to take this evening. I encourage you to delay this, review the material we have presented here tonight. I've only got one copy of this, but I do have copies of the other report, and reconsider this, what we consider to be totally inappropriate use of public facilities. We firmly believe that there are Health and Safety Act violations involved here. We firmly believe that the transfer of public resources is in violation of our concerns about competitive bidding, prevailing wage, and other issues that impact redevelopment agencies. And finally, our traffic expert insists that the CEQA requirements on this property have not been met. We want only for you to reconsider. We want you to take a look at the materials we have presented. And we are prepared to go forward in both discussions with the city and the city attorney, as well as more community action and potential action against the city if this moves forward under the present circumstances. It's a tough issue for us, but I think it's one that you have an obligation to protect the city. I know there are always ways, I'm a former elected official myself, there are always ways to find ways to do what you want. What's important here is you do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the Community Redevelopment Agency during public comments? It's all CRA. Good evening. If you'll go to the microphone, there you go, thank you.
Pat Sutter from Center Court Club. My concern is the extension of the Convention Center parking lot north of Amado. We are Center Court Club, a small community which will be on the west side of that parking lot. The south side already has a parking lot, and they're expanding around our west side. On the south side of the parking lot, there are approximately 62 feet before a car parks next to our complex. What we see on the west side is there will only be 34 feet before a car parks right against our front doors and our master bedroom doors. Again, like other people have mentioned before me, we're concerned about air pollution, the heat from the blacktop, the noise pollution, et cetera, et cetera. Another concern we have is because of the blow sand, our wall is not 6 feet high throughout the extent of the west wall, and we would appreciate when the people come in to grade that area that they make sure that the wall is 6 feet from the south to the north side of the wall. There are 26 parking places that will be right up against our wall, and we would like to recommend that those 26 spaces be removed. It's less than 2% of the amount of parking spaces that will be in this lot, and that Desertscape be put right up against our wall so we don't have to have the hot cars right against our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the CRA? Very good. Seeing no one, we'll close public comments. We'll turn to our legislative calendar. First item before the Community Redevelopment Agency is item A, the Prairie Schooner property, a licensing agreement A454C. Mr. Reddy?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the agency, the recommendation is to rescind the prior approval and then approve First Amendment lease agreement number 1 that's before you this evening. Again, this is a project that deals with parking on the Prairie Schooner for the convention center, for the casino, and also as a revenue enhancement. And I also might ask the city attorney, he may have a comment on the process and on the subsequent agreement that will come forward. David?
Thank you, David. Obviously, there's quite a raft of materials that has been received, and in fact, I was not at the Planning Commission meeting when I guess these arguments were brought forward, and have just since the Planning Commission meeting been given these materials to look at them and at this point in time to be able to respond to them. There's several points. First of all, I think it needs to be understood that there are 2 independent projects going on here. One project is the tribe is building their casino. The tribe had the obligation to go through an environmental process to get that project authorized, which they did. They did not face any legal challenges concerning that project. They have, in fact, there were no challenges that were filed. The issues being raised now concerning, whether there are 3,000 parking spaces, et cetera, the city had no approval involvement concerning that project. It seems to me that those are all issues that if somebody wanted to raise them, they should have been raised concerning the tribal project. The city has no approval rights over that project. The scope of that project is not something that's controlled by the city, and it really seems to me that most of the objections I heard here really had to do with the scope of that project and whether that project was properly environmentally analyzed, and I think this is probably the wrong forum to be bringing those objections. Those objections should have been brought to the tribe. There's a second project. The second project is the city's convention center expansion. That project is a $38 million project. What is going on here is not the city trying to utilize the Prairie Schooner parcel to facilitate a tribal project. The city has an independent project. And the council well knows we have spent years planning this project, going through the process of obtaining funding, designing the project, and finding that the project exceeded the funding. So then going back through an election process that is now pending in order to see what additional funding we will have. In that process, the city, as it was required by law, did an EIR. I mean, it's an extremely thick document in terms of the environmental implications of doing this $38 million expansion to the convention center. One of the things that the expanded convention center needs is parking. The consideration of the Prairie Schooner as a site for parking is not something that 2 months ago we decided to start thinking about it being a parking lot and because it was needed to facilitate the tribe's project. Instead, the consideration of the use of the Prairie Schooner as a parking site was something that was a part of the city's design of its own convention center project. And so, in fact, within the EIR that analyzed the convention center, it was provided that there be 475 parking spaces at the convention center location. And the environmental impacts of that were analyzed and addressed. Now, one of the things that you do after you do an EIR and you approve the project with an EIR is you file a notice of determination. And people then have 30 days to file a lawsuit if they think that your EIR was inappropriate. The city filed that notice of determination. No environmental challenge occurred. So we have two projects on separate tracks, the tribal project and the city convention center project. Both went through environmental analysis, both concluded with environmental documents, both were subject to challenge, neither was challenged. Okay? So that is what the record is in terms of the environmental consideration of these two projects. Now, one problem that the city has in its convention center project is obviously the funding of this project has been extremely difficult to arrange. The project has been a very expensive project. We have the Prairie Schooner parcel, but it is not fully improved to city standards in terms of being utilized for parking. What occurred here is that the tribe, as a part of their project, proposed that we do joint use of this parking area. And since the city's project is financially strapped and we're going to the voters to try and get funding to complete the project as envisioned, the tribal willingness to advance $2 million to install those improvements actually benefited the city being able to complete its convention center project as envisioned. So that, I guess there are always two stories to and implications to how you got somewhere, but I think it's important. From our standpoint, we had two independent projects. We went through environmental analysis. Nobody challenged the environmental analysis. That project envisioned using Prairie Schooner for parking. We didn't have the money, don't have the money to install those parking improvements. The tribe suggested that they could advance the money to install those improvements, provided they have an ability to use it. It is, in fact, joint use. The city insisted that we be able to use it for parking purposes. One of the concerns was that the tribe would designate an area for employee parking, and based upon the performance of the convention center, we will have times when we need to fully use that area. And so in our agreement, we basically said to the tribe, we need to be able to get the employees off there so that we can fully use that, and that is a part of the agreement. Now, other in these materials, and again, I've just been glancing through them here, but one of the arguments that was made when we last considered this and is made again is that this agreement is illegal because the redevelopment agency cannot provide financial assistance for casinos. We don't disagree that that is a legal principle. What we disagree with is that we are providing financial assistance, because what is happening is that the tribe is paying the leasehold value. We did an appraisal as to what the value of the property is, and the lease payments that are being made by the tribe will pay that fair market value of use of the property. In fact, they're paying additional funds considerably above what that fair market value is. So since there is no financial assistance being provided by the agency, we do not believe that it violates the Health and Safety Code provision. Now, another argument that is made in the materials that you have before you is that if the fair market value of the property is $268,000 a year, what is happening here is we're receiving the $268,000, but then we are paying back $200,000 a year over 10 years to repay the $2 million the tribe is advancing to build the improvements. So the argument's made, well, the reality is the city only received $68,000, and $68,000 is not the fair market value, so you didn't get the fair market value. Well, at the end of all this, we end up with an improved parking lot. Those improvements have value. The tribe is investing $2 million to install those improvements. So the city, the agency, is receiving an economic benefit, and it's spurious to suggest that if we receive a $2 million advance from the tribe and it goes into installing these improvements, if basically the tribe provides financing to us by giving us 10 years to repay that money, that the agency did not receive something of value. It did receive something of value. So I believe we end up with $2 million worth of improvements. We end up with rental payments that are equal to our appraisal of the fair market value of the property. And then in addition, there are additional payments that are made as a part of the transaction which will ultimately go to the city. And these payments reflect some other economic aspects that the tribe is contributing to the city as basically an in lieu payment to make up for other costs, not real estate costs, that the city faces. So I think the suggestion that this is a violation of the redevelopment law and that we are not receiving fair market value is a kind of reconstruction of the data, which we believe is inappropriate. There's a suggestion made that somehow, as between the last agreement and this agreement, the sovereign immunity clause of the agreement has been modified, and that the modification of that clause is intended to put the city under the umbrella of the tribe and prevent anybody from suing us over this agreement.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, but I'm having a problem here with my recorder. If you could just take a small break real quick, I'm sorry.
Fine, we'll take a brief recess so the clerk can get her systems working. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. We've got the audio working again, and Mr. Alshire, if you'll conclude your comments, sir, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was commenting on the sovereign immunity issue. We had a clause in the prior draft agreement, and as you know, you approved that agreement in a final form to be determined by the city attorney. And basically, on the sovereign immunity, we had put a clause in that we thought would be acceptable to the tribe. It turned out that when Art Bunce looked at it, it was not the normal language they were used to using, so he modified it. I do not believe that I think the argument they're making misreads this clause. I do not believe in any manner this clause is an umbrella to the city that prevents us from being sued. There was not some dastardly intent here to slip something through so the city is not subject to suit. The sovereign immunity waiver pertains to the tribe. The tribe is agreeing. The purpose of the clause, both before and now, was to state that if in the carrying out of our agreements with the tribe, we believe the tribe is not adhering to the agreements, the city has the ability of suing the tribe. And so they are waiving their immunity from suit by the city. They never intended to waive their ability to be sued by other persons. So in entering into the agreement with us, they understand that if they don't abide by the terms of the agreement, we can go to court. And so they have waived their sovereign immunity. As a matter of fact, in the 12 years I've been here, I believe we only have gotten an immunity waiver from the tribe on 2 other occasions. So it's fairly unusual for the tribe to be willing to waive their sovereign immunity for the city. It has absolutely nothing to do with our liability to people out there who don't think we're doing the right thing. We can always be sued. So certainly we're still in that situation. The other comments that I wanted to make, there was an objection that this was not the highest and best use under the redevelopment plan. Once again, I think there's a misunderstanding here. This agreement is simply a short-term agreement to be able to use these parking improvements. As a matter of fact, the agreement expressly provides that although the tribe is advancing this $2 million, and although certainly the tribe is expecting to get their money back, and I said that last time, the fact of the matter is we said that since this is just a short-term agreement to install these improvements and to let them use them, and the entering into a long-term lease, a legally binding long-term lease where the tribe would have the continuing right to use that property, that requires a separate legal process. And we said expressly to the tribe that when we prepare that agreement, we negotiate those details, we bring it back, there will be a public hearing on that agreement. We will have to make certain findings to approve that agreement. If the city council decides not to approve the agreement, the tribe's out the money. They understand that. They will not come back they're precluded from coming back and saying, oh, well, the city only repaid us $200,000 of that $2 million, now give us the other $1.8 million. So they are running a risk on that, and because we felt that because there's no long-term liability to the city, this was an acceptable process to do this. We are not stuck with an agreement with the tribe if when we come back and we go through the public hearing process, the city council decides they do not wish to share the parking space with the tribe. They wish to use it exclusively for the convention center. And on the highest and best use issue, should the city decide to do that, obviously 3 years from now, if somebody wants to come along and build a hotel and the city wants to do a hotel project, you will have that choice. I think I was very clear about this last time, so I'm trying to be clear about it again. This is not a long-term binding agreement, which is why it has been approached this way. So people can want to put implications on this, and certainly the tribe would like to get their money back, and the tribe would like us to enter into the long-term agreement. The important issue is the legally binding effect, and there is no legally binding effect. Now, most of the other arguments raised here are talking about the appropriateness of the convention center EIR and whether there is a change in circumstances that would require us to redo the convention center EIR in light of the fact that we're now going to use this for short-term parking. And I think it'd be appropriate for Doug to make some comments on some of those issues, and then when he's done, I'll try and wrap up.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to comment. As David indicated, we're reviewing a document we received today, Council received tonight. Just like to go through a few issues. One, there was a public comment regarding the center court parking lot. That is a related convention center parking lot, not subject to this agreement, and it would be an action for the Planning Commission next Wednesday. It was on their agenda today. We did not have a quorum, so no action was taken. The actual final approval of that parking lot does not require City Council action unless it's appealed. In this particular case, taking a look at the parking lot, the activities of the parking lot, one, it's consistent with the general plan and the zoning ordinance. Both of those documents contemplate in Section 14, we are going to use various properties for parking lots either permanently or on interim basis, and in many cases in Section 14, public parking lots or private parking lots are allowed by right of zone as standalone type uses. We believe the project was adequately previously assessed. We are not proposing, nor is the council taking any action on any additional environmental documents. The convention center environmental assessment, mitigated negative declaration adequately covered the construction of the parking lot, and we believe also the long-term operation of it. One of the concerns is that they're making a statement that it's reasonably foreseeable the number of slot machines will increase. We do not believe that is reasonably foreseeable. It's prohibited by the compact. It takes actions by other entities. It's speculative. And under California environmental law, we are not required to analyze speculative things that may or may not occur in the future. So we know that's speculative, and if the tribe does increase that capacity, they're going to have to do some type of environmental review pursuant to the gaming compact and that review process, and then any changes they do to the casino. The tribe at one point did discuss with the city adding a substantial number of parking spaces. They have since backed away from a temporary parking lot down closer to Ramon Road. They're not going to go forward with that. They felt they needed that. They then evaluated their parking. They're not going forward with that. And that parking lot, I don't have the numbers in front of me, was roughly 400 parking spaces. They have downscaled a proposal that they brought to us. It's on your agenda tonight, from several hundreds of parking spaces to 166 up on North Indian Canyon. I think in our discussions with the tribe, they had some discussions whether or not they really needed as many parking spaces as outlined in this protest letter. And I think what they found is they probably operationally don't need it, and they will use their existing parking spaces more efficiently. And obviously, the city attorney talked about the Prairie Schooner valuation. So the idea that the tribe is actually building 3,000 additional spaces is not the information that planning staff is working with. We believe that the convention center assessment analyzed the use of parking. We do have events at the convention center that last 24 hours a day. So those are types of things we've done in the past. We may do additional events in the future. We typically haven't had significant problems with that parking. This particular parking lot, the Prairie Schooner, is located off the back side of the casino. It's not near a front door. It's not going to be convenient for customers to use it. And as you get into the wee hours of the night, you'll probably find that there's much more convenient parking. So it's not going to be a high turnover parking lot 24 hours a day. It's one that's going to be used a lot of the times for overflow type situations and special events, just like the convention center. convention center has activities in there all the time. You don't even know they're in there because they're not using many parking spaces. In this case, this particular parking lot will be used in that type of fashion. So we believe it's consistent with the convention center evaluation, the noise impacts, the traffic impacts in this particular area. We don't anticipate a real significant increase in traffic, and we have roadways that really don't carry many cars today in this particular area, even projecting out the casino. These are not the high-trafficked roadways that we have, such as Amato, Indian Canyon, Andreas, and Cayenne Celia. From the standpoint of lighting and aesthetics, the city's conditions that we're recommending to the Planning Commission next week is to light this parking lot exactly like we would light all of the convention center parking, roughly an average of 1 foot candle, no more than 3. Follow the city lighting ordinance. Yes, the tribe proposed a parking lot lighting scheme that was much brighter. It was a casino-type parking lot that they would do on tribal lands, and we're not going to recommend approval of that. And I know the Planning Commission will be highly unlikely to approve anything more than roughly an average of 1 with maximum of 3 foot candles, which is what we do in city parking lots all over. So the lighting, the aesthetics, it's going to meet virtually every city requirement. It's going to look like the convention center. It's got increased landscape buffers around it. We could probably add some parking spaces if we took them out. We're not. We're making sure that this is as good a parking lot as we can have designed to match up with what we're doing at the convention center. This is really, as the city attorney indicated, this is not a component of the casino expansion. It's really a contingency parking lot that is adding to the reservoir of parking that the casino may have around it. Just as the city may have an event at the convention center that we may someday ask the tribe, can we have some people park in your parking lot? That may occur. So again, special events is when we'll probably see this parking lot used at its highest levels. That's a quick overview of the comments. And again, we believe the existing environmental document for the convention center certainly analyzed a parking lot, certainly analyzed one that could have peak activity periods, low activity periods, and aesthetically it meets the city code criteria, and it's going to be as good as any parking lot in Palm Springs, and the lighting won't be any different. Completes my comment. Certainly try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Alshire. Mr. Evans?
If I could, just to wrap up here, I'm sorry to take so long on this issue. Frankly, when we last came to you with this, there obviously were some objections raised that, again, surprised us. And we had been thinking that this short-term lease of property was probably categorically exempt, but we took seriously the challenges that were made last time. So we went back, looked at the record, and realized that the Convention Center EIR fully dealt with this issue. So we brought this back really for the purpose of making a more correct finding than we did last time. And the more correct finding is that we believe the implications of using this parcel for parking are fully addressed in the Convention Center EIR, and that EIR is a valid and binding document. In the interim, obviously what's happened is the people who are not happy about this have also spent a lot more time developing their arguments concerning this, and I really think that this is, the horse is out of the barn on this one. We have 2 major projects that were approved months ago, had all their environmental documents finalized. This is really taking a parcel that was analyzed for parking, agreeing to share it with the tribe for parking, and we get a extremely detailed challenge environmentally of this aspect of the convention center expansion that was not made when we were approving the project itself. And as we said earlier, it goes into a number of other issues concerning the Tribes project. In closing, it seems to me the crux of their argument is really to try and say that this isn't a short-term license agreement. This is really a 20-year project to use this parking for a casino parking lot. That is the essence of the argument they're trying to make. And I would like to close by just pointing out to you the specific language in our agreement, in the license agreement, which is the document before you tonight. It says that the term of the license shall terminate on July 31, 2005, unless it's extended. So we're talking about a short-term document. It also says it is intended that the disposition development agreement can be prepared and approved by said date. So it clearly says there's an expectation of a superseding document. Moreover, it says that the owner, in other words, the agency, may terminate the agreement at its sole discretion at any time upon providing prior written notice to Tribe 1 year in advance. So with 1 year's notice, you can terminate this agreement for any reason. And it says that when you terminate it, that the Tribe shall return the owner's parcel in good condition with all improvements specified to the satisfaction of the owner. So they are responsible for returning it in an appropriate condition. And finally, the most important clause, which is Section 4.4 of the agreement, failure to approve the DDA. In the event the agency does not approve the DDA and approve a long-term lease of the owner parcel to the Tribe, then this license agreement shall terminate at the conclusion of its term. In such event, the Tribe may discontinue payment of the consideration stated in Section 2, and the agency may discontinue repayment of the parking improvement cost. Neither party shall have any liability to the other hereunder so long as they are not in default. So basically, what happens is if you do not wish to go forward, then the Tribe doesn't have to keep paying this consideration. Well, yeah, if they're not getting the property, why would they pay anything? And you are free from the repayment of the parking improvement cost. And neither party has any liability one to the other. So the language is absolutely clear. That's what we're hanging our hat on, that this is not a long-term commitment. We understand there's another process. The document that we come back with will be, 30 or 50 pages long with all kinds of provisions in it, back and forth, and that will go through a public hearing process. So really, the persons making this challenge are certainly going to get another bite at the apple of the whole thing. This is just to facilitate this short-term parking situation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Alshire. Council, questions on staff's report? What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
move the resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills and second by Mr. Oden. Any additional comments or questions?
Yes, I'd just like to thank the city attorney and planning director for their explanation, because I had several questions that they actually did clarify for me, so, and I'm sure as well for the public. Thank you.
Mr. Oden, any comments? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
There was a revised agreement handed out to the council, and I assume that's the one that council was considering. Part of that revision, 4.2, showed the 2.2 million rather than the 2.5. So with that, Ms. Hodges?
I'm going to confirm that with the maker in the second. This was the packet you got at your desk.
The yellow.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Oh, pardon me. Maybe I need to change. Just a moment, please.
Caucus.
The city clerk indicated her understanding of the agreement, so I guess that's what's in front of you.
It's the revised one, is that correct? Okay.
Yes,
Roll
yes.
call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
I don't know. I'm not sure now. What am I voting on?
Yellow.
The one in the yellow? packet?
Yellow folder?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Reynolds Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Aye, 5-0, passes unanimously. Item B is the Rosano-Spivacek Amendment 2. This is Agreement 443C. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the agency, this is merely an extension of a contract. It is not an additional cost. They are requiring additional time to do their eminent domain process, and we recommend the extension of the 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Oden and second by Ms. Reynolds Spurgeon. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, deemed unanimous. Item C is the Heritage District Uptown Lighting System. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the agency, we strongly recommend your approval. This is the plans and specifications for the infrastructure for the lighting in the uptown area, the Heritage District. It is something that council has wanted for some time there. In the specs, you will see that the trenching has to be done before Thanksgiving, and there can be no open work done at the time of the Festival of Lights parade. So they need to work around those programs, and that's in the specifications, and it's recommended your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions on staff report?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
My question is, this is a very time-sensitive project due to completion right after the first of the year. And as was just outlined, critical during that particular weekend, Festival of Lights. Are there liquidated damages in the contract of this project?
I would ask Mr. Barakian, our Director of Public Works, to address that issue. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mills, the contract provides liquidated damages not only for the overall 40-day term of the project, but also for meeting the two timelines that Mr. Reddy spoke of.
So we have so if he finishes early, he gets there is a bonus essentially as well. Is that correct?
No, there's no bonus provided, but for instance, if the trenching was not all completed prior to Thanksgiving, the liquidated damages would kick in of $425 per day. So there is a strong incentive to abide by the contractual time limits set forth in the specifications.
Likewise, does it make sense to include a bonus to encourage them, as we did before when we were tearing up the downtown streets, and it worked well?
It did work well at that time. It's certainly something we could we could consider.
I mean, my concern is that January 2nd is late enough, and if we go past January 2nd, even for $425 a day, based on the Thanksgiving trenching, it's just not worth it. So I want to ensure any way we can that project is done by January 2nd, and if putting a bonus clause in there is the appropriate way to do it, I think all of us would be much happier, and you in the long run would be much happier too.
I could tell you that.
He's concerned about your happiness.
Yeah.
Sense that?
No, but Mr. Mills is correct. It served very well when we put that in a few years ago downtown. So with council's concurrence, we will look at a similar percentage that we used when we did the downtown paving.
Okay.
These would not be up nor operational for holiday lighting then? We'd be in the midst of construction during that period of time.
Well, yes. In fact, the project is just putting in the electrical system and the foundations for the
Right.
lights.
Good.
It's not actually installing the lights.
Good. I'm appreciative of the fact that we control our construction, both the mall downtown based on Veterans Day Parade and the work here based on Festival of Lights, that we're trying to coordinate so the events are not impacted any more than they have to. I think all the people that are involved and the participants and the viewers appreciate that, and I'm sure the merchants do. Okay? All right, council, I should say agency, what's your pleasure?
Move the resolution.
And I'll second it, contingent upon the bonus and the percentages indicated before.
The recommendation. Okay, I'm fine with that.
So the maker and the second want a bonus penalty clause added to this? Do you need clear direction as to the amount, or is that established? Dollar amounts established on the bonus, so it's
Percentages was a percentage.
percentage? Good, okay. Very good. Additional comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 5-0, deemed unanimous. Okay? Let's now adjourn as the CRA, and we'll reconvene as a city council. First order of business before the city council is public comments. I have 2 cards before me for public comments before the city council. Joy Barba and Phil Tedesco. Good evening. You brought some friends. We like your friends.
We like our friends.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Joy Barba. I'm a Palm Springs resident. I'm also a member of the Riverside County Sheriff's Search and Rescue Canine Unit. It's been brought to our attention through some media and our friends that you might not be aware of the local resource that you have of search and rescue dogs in the area for that. So we wanted to bring it to the council's attention for that. Terry is also a desert resident. We both live here. The rest of our team lives throughout Riverside County. We're part of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, like I said. It's a specialized unit that uses dogs as a community resource. We are all volunteers for that. Our team has search dogs certified by the State Office of Emergency Services in very specialized disciplines, so they are very highly specialized and tested. They must test and recertify yearly. It is a lengthy process of testing and evaluation and one of the strictest in the nation. We are certified and respond via the dispatch for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Our team is also certified and part of the state OES, Office of Emergency Services, as part of the California Rescue Dog Association, or CARDA. It supplies SAR dogs, search and rescue dogs, throughout California as part of the state's emergency response to disasters and searches. We just wanted you aware that you have this resource in your area, in your local area, for that. You have a total of 6 wilderness dogs at your disposal, 2 trailing dogs, 4 cadaver body recovery dogs, 2 basic urban disaster dogs, and 1 type 2 FEMA federal disaster dog. I'm not saying that you should not continue to purchase and raise funds for the FEMA dog that has been mentioned in the fire department and that you have locally, because we think the more the merrier. We think the more resources you have, the better. But we wanted it brought to the council's attention that you do have a resource and that you are covered until that time and after that time as supplemental for that, for your search and rescue dogs for that. We want to just brought to your attention, I have left our dispatch. We're dispatched through the Sheriff's Department. We also have a mutual aid agreement with the county for that dispatch for it, and we just wanted to make you aware of it. Thank you for your time.
Would you introduce your staff?
Yes.
Would you bring them up here?
The
Is that
most
possible?
important ones first, of course.
Yes, of course.
So that means Terry isn't introduced. This is Rizzoli. Rizzoli is certified in wilderness and body recovery cadaver. And this is Terry Verified. Desert resident. We teach them feet because they also are helicopter certified and have to be certified to go in helicopters. And also they undergo extreme testing for them. This is Sam, he's a black Labrador retriever. He's a basic urban disaster dog and a wilderness dog, too.
Urban and wilderness, good job, Sam.
Oh, good job, Sam. Big feet. And he's a big baby.
How old is he?
He's 5.
How old?
She just turned 6.
Turns out, he's 6.
She's a baby. Very much. So we wanted to make you aware of the resources that we do have.
Thank you.
And you should all be aware of the fact that all 4 of these professionals have their ID badges on, as you can see by the dog. They are credentialed? Yes, they are. Very good. Thank you. Thank you both for coming down. Excellent. Mr. Tedesco, if you'll come forward at this time, and anyone else who wishes to address the council, please join the line behind Mr. Tedesco.
That's a hard act to follow, I'll tell you. I love dogs. Good evening. My name is Philip Tedesco. I'm at 1303 Primavera Drive in Palm Springs. And I'm here before you to express an opinion which the Desert Sun has refused to publish because, and I quote, the facts I expressed needed to be verified. Excuse me, but if it's a fact, by definition, it's something that's already been objectively verified. But the semantics aside, I want you to know, I want it to be known that one of the longest and current members of the Palm Springs Planning Commission is a gentleman I've long admired, Mr. Mark Matthews. He's a, however, when I saw him promoting AOL on current TV ads, I was appalled. Appalled because this occurred the same day I received in the mail a copy of the Planning Commission's recommendation to the City Council for approval for AOL to erect transmission towers in certain lots within the city. I'm not against this at all, but whether he was paid for participating in this TV performance is not the point. Even if he recused himself from voting in this recommendation, it just doesn't look right. Isn't it a conflict of interest? I think it is, and that's my opinion, and I thank you for letting me express it.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name's Keith McCormick. I'm president of Palm Springs Exotic Car Auctions. Item number 29 on tonight's agenda is the requested approval to move our next collector car show and auction to the new downtown parking centre. That was necessitated by the scheduled remodelling of the convention centre. I want to reassure the council that I've spoken with all the impacted merchants near the parking centre and have not received one negative comment. Los Casuelos is putting a bar on the top of the centre, and the Deck and Chop House are doing the catering. I mean, what more can you want? Palm Canyon and Indian Avenue will not be closed at any time, which has pleased the merchants no end. The parking centre will be open to accommodate Village Fest on Thursday night, with the exception of the top floor. I'm a details freak, and I've got this well organised. You can be reassured of that. I would also like to request a speedy approval for our traditional Feb 2004 dates on the same premises as we start to advertise that event overseas in October and November magazines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Jim Dunn, General Manager at the Convention Center. I'll make this very brief. I wanted to speak to two items tonight. First of all, item 29. I can tell you Keith McCormick is a details fanatic, and he's done a phenomenal job with us at the Convention Center over the past few years, so I certainly think that'd be a great event for downtown as well. Secondly, I just wanted to report there's been a number of things in the press lately about the expansion of the convention center and our debuting of that last week in Hawaii at ASAE. The event went very well. I just wanted to let you know that that was the kind of kickoff for our pre-opening marketing. We had about 1,500 meeting planners in attendance at this show. We had a special event for them on Sunday night. We had approximately 20 organizations represented. 15 of those were actual groups, and that represented about 20,000 room nights available to come to Palm Springs. The other were 4 multi-management companies who represent number of groups. So these were all great clients for us to have at the event. It was very well received. People were tremendously impressed with what we did and what Palm Springs represented both at the trade show in conjunction with the CVA and our hotel partners, and of course our representative from the city being the mayor. We had a great event. We had great feedback. We had almost an entire page during one of the days there, the day following our event. There was a daily paper that came out that's well read among the industry, and it went to the doors in front of each door of the meeting planners that were there in attendance. So it was a great event. We recognized a lot of leads from this. The CVA is calculating that right now and dispersing the leads from the actual trade show floor. So again, that's the kickoff for our pre-opening marketing, and it was a great kickoff, and we look forward to rolling forward in the next few months with some of our other events as we move along. But I just wanted to let you know that your dollars are at work, and they were actually very well spent. We received just constant favorable feedback from the trade show to the event and everything in between. So thank you for your continued support. We're out there selling it. Please build it.
Okay, now before you go, fair to give an appraisal of Mr. Dunn's work. The convention was enormous in size and scale and magnitude when you consider who's there. ASAE is the American Society of Association Executives, the executive directors, the presidents of associations that look for convention centers, for conventions, for exhibits, for meetings. And what Mr. Dunn and his team from his center and the hoteliers that came in and the CVA, because a lot of delegates came from the CVA, and we had Palm Springs Life, Milt Jones was there. They had a phenomenal booth set up, larger than the area before us here. They had the model of the convention center. The architect came in from Denver. We had a little massage chair, which lured them in to relax, because that was the theme they were selling, and people would come in for a 5 to 10 minute little massage of their shoulders. There was a constant flow of interested parties that wanted to see what Mr. Dunn and company represented. We had a strong showing all through the entire exhibit. In fact, we had more time. I was there the first day from about 10 to noon. At noon, the lights basically went off in the convention center. They wanted you to go away. It was done. Get out. And we wanted to stay because we were moving product, if you will. We were selling the center. The dinner was exceptional. Understand that Savory, which is our caterers at the convention center, the chef, Brad, and his wife, Lynn, this time both Lynn and Brad came. In Washington, it was just the chef. They flew, and they worked in conjunction with the chef at the Halekulani, the restaurant where we hosted the event, and they prepared an absolutely phenomenal first-class meal, absolutely first-class meal. Everything was an exceptional performance and presentation. Everyone I spoke to, and it was a very large gathering that Mr. Dunn and his people put together, everyone was impressed from the minute they checked in to the minute they left. The gentleman that stands before you here is an exceptional professional. He is well received by everyone. He sells the product professionally. It was phenomenal to watch these people work. Soft sell, but convincing arguments. I would suggest to you that the team probably brought back 3, maybe 4 pretty serious inquiries, if not possibilities for business. Very pleased with the results. It was a pleasure to work with these people. We did sell it, and I will suggest to you that Bob Elsner, who we all appointed to the airport commissioner, the former president of ASAE, joined us. He was well known and recognized throughout the exhibit hall and did walk about the exhibit hall and brought people to us. He was also at the dinner. Everyone knew him, remembered him, and loved him. So he's a great ally for our efforts towards tourism. You should really be proud of what these people did. It was phenomenal. It was really well done. Brad exhausted himself. We didn't know this, but during the meal, apparently the smoke alarm or fire alarm went off in the kitchen because it was so hot. We were right next door, did not hear it, but you know, they had people screaming with alarms and smoke going off. Flawless. We never even heard it. Brad joined us for after event debriefing. He looked exhausted, but very pleased with the event. So just know the quality of the people that work for you here. They did a great job. Jim, hats off to you and your company.
Thank you. One thing I did want to point out is it was a very much a community effort between the hotel partners, the CVA, our staff, and having the mayor and Bob Elsner, they're both representing the city. That meant so much. When we were on the trade show floor, we kept hearing the comment, that's great that you've got your mayor here. Our mayor would never come. Or it's great that you've got Bob there representing the airport. So we were really lucky. We had the entire package there. We had our chef, we had the CVA, we had the hotels, we had everyone we needed. And it was a great sell for the city, and it was a very exciting thing to watch happen. So we appreciate, again, everyone's support in making that happen.
Thanks for coming down. How's your shoulder?
It's getting there.
All right, good. All right, anyone else wishing to address council during public comments? Joy, good evening. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Mayor Kleindienst, City Council, City staff. There's a couple things I want to just mention tonight, and then I did have one request. One thing, as president of Main Street, the Merchants Association of Palm Springs, I want to tell you that I could certainly say I speak for many of us that we're thrilled to have Keith McCormick downtown. It's been a really nice addition to a recently vacated space where Plaza Motors is, and we just consider it a real plus, and we're just really proud to have him. Another thing I wanted to mention was that, unfortunately, over the summer, past board member and vice president of Main Street passed away, and that was Dan Horn. He was also on the Village Fest board. And I just wanted to say that I just want people to know that Dan Horn wasn't just another merchant. Dan Horn really fought for that uptown area to get the problems taken care of with the police department, met with the police. I mean, he really worked hard, and I really think that needs to be the legacy for him. I'm not sure exactly how to handle it yet, but he certainly deserves that. Even through a lot of illness, he still went to Village Fest as much as he could, and it was kind of shocking. And I just want to say, though, that he deserves to be remembered for that, because he really worked hard to clean up that area for uptown, and he just really deserves to be remembered that way. When I'm not being president of Main Street, I'm the secretary of the Palm Springs Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. And what we do is, other than have a very long name, we help the Palm Springs Police Officers Association raise money for non-budget items. We help them raise money for the tire house, for the training center, and now we're working on raising as much as maybe $100,000 for a new lab. And that's our goal. And one of the things on your agenda tonight is if you would waive fees for the golf tournament that's held in December. And I just wanted to tell you that really the money to release those fees is really an investment, because all the money that's raised from that golf tournament just goes right back to the police department. So it's not like it's going to any other group or anything. It's coming right back to your very own city, just in ways that maybe weren't budgeted before. So it is item number 30, and I'm guessing that there is some amount of chance I might not be here. So I just wanted to take that opportunity to say thanks for staying till item 30, by the way, and I'll be watching you from home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the council during public comments?
Sorry to have to do this in two pieces, Frank Tyson. I'm not talking about one lot, but I'm talking about the entire parking situation. And the important point is that the original environmental impact study dealt with 1,300 spaces. And now suddenly we have 1,700 more spaces, and there was no environmental impact study done for that. And the impact, of course, is quite substantial when you talk about 3,000 parking spaces in the heart of Palm Springs spread over 6 lots. That's a lot of blacktop. You know, we are a laid-back community. We're not a Staples Center or a Dodger Stadium. The other issue is the segmentation of the parking lot decisions. There's another one on the agenda tonight, 32A, and that technically is illegal under the California Environmental Act, because you really need some comprehensive planning on this. We need some how to fit this entire project in harmoniously into what is an area which is essentially surrounded and bordered by residences, condos and single-family homes. The other questions that I didn't get a chance to mention to you, which should be asked, is the issue about air pollution, how much vegetation one would need to absorb some of this, the crime impact, and the neighborhood and architectural quality of the immediately surrounding residential areas. You heard some of the people tonight that were here that were concerned about what's going to happen right next to their homes. The lighting, I mean, as I say, the lighting is another issue, the night lighting, and that issue 32A that's coming up tonight, the Planning Commission expressed its desire for 1 foot candle, and I hope you support them. But already the parking lot that has been built between Amado and Alejo, if drive by it, it's a very tastefully done parking lot. It's beautifully landscaped, but the ambient light is not in keeping with that neighborhood. And all you have to do is drive by the convention center, drive through the airport parking lot, drive through the hospital area, and you'll see that that is overlit and needs to be toned down. So we really need to take a good look at all this before we destroy our night skies completely. I think in many ways, this 3,000 new spaces in the heart of Palm Springs, amidst of all kinds of residences, is one of the most important decisions that's facing you. And I hope you really kind of consider the fact that that you represent. I know you can only be advisory to the tribe, but you still need to stand up and be counted and and represent the 42,000 people and the hundreds of thousands of visitors that come here, not because of a parking lot, because of the peace and the quiet and the beauty of this town. So don't just give the store away that easily. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the council during public comments? Very good. Seeing no one, we'll close the public comments. Council will turn now to our consent agenda, items 1 through 16. If there are items you'd like to pull for a separate vote, to ask questions on, or to note your abstentions, please do so at this time.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Oden.
I'd just like a separate staff report on number 4.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I need to abstain on item 10 due to proximity of owning property.
Thank you, Ms. Rella-Spurgeon. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Mills?
Mr. Mayor, on item 1, abstain from the minutes of May 21st, July 2nd, and July 30th, and that I wasn't present. And let's see, on item 16, one warrant abstention for business relation 990022.
Mr. Mills? Let the clerk show abstention on item 1 for the minutes of July 30th. I was absent for the meeting.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion for approval by Ms. Rella-Spurgeon and a second by Mr. Mills. And
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Hodges.
I need to abstain on the minutes on all of them except the 30th. I was absent.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Hodges. And the motion for approval excludes item 4. That'll be separately discussed based on Mr. Oden's request. All right, we'll take action on everything but 4. I'll ask for a roll call.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Are you excluding 4?
If 4 is excluded?
Thank you. Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rella-Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. Unanimous. Item 4, Mr. Oden requests a separate staff report.
I would ask Mr. Smoot to give the staff report from the airport. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, this particular item has to deal with a valley-wide public art program that is in the midst of being carried out, and it is to place 2 bighorn sheep sculptures at the airport as part of a bighorn sheep program throughout the valley. These 2 particular statues or sculptures will be painted and be placed at the airport as part of this valley-wide program. They will actually be given to the airport as part of our public art to be placed there at the airport. And this was discussed by the Public Arts Commission and the airport. The airport, it was a split vote. I think it was 6-5 in favor of having them there. Lots of people had lots of feelings about bighorn sheep. And at this point, this is a recommendation to allow them to be placed at the airport. The license agreement does allow us to move them about, so they don't have to be stuck in one spot. We have a tendency to remodel things and like to move things. And as we say, the only thing that will never move is the fountain, but these sheep may.
Mr. Oden.
Thank you for the staff report. I'm a little surprised that the vote was that close over the sculptures. But nevertheless, I'll move the minute order. Thank you.
Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. Chicago has the cow, Los Angeles has the angel, and I found out that Tulsa has the penguin, and I can't understand the association of the penguin in Tulsa, but they have the penguin. We obviously now have the bighorn sheep.
Mayor, in Cincinnati had the pigs.
The pigs, with wings or no?
Some had wings, but they were mostly just all sows. They were sows.
Well said,
Mr. Mayor. And
Mr.
I have
Mills.
some further discussion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smoot, it says in the staff report that the Art Commission approved the location. Did the Art Commission approve the product?
I can't answer whether or not I believe yes, the products were looked at by the Arts Commission. The Airport Commission did not get into the art tastefulness of the product. That was something they left up to the Arts Commission.
But these fiberglass statues were approved by
the Arts
our
Commission.
Art Commission.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
They're all painted individually,
Yes.
So who knows what you're going to get.
Exactly, Dana. Who knows? But we will soon find out.
But we will soon find out.
But as Mr. Smoot indicated, we can move them.
Yes.
We know what we're going to get.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's 5-0. It's unanimous. We have two bighorn sheep headed towards the airport. We have handled our public hearing for item 17. First item before us. Item 18 is a public hearing. This is tentative track map 31328, known as Palm Springs Garden LP. Mr. Reddy, I'll ask for your staff's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a 68-unit condo complex, and I would ask Mr. Evans to give the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. You have a written staff report with a lot of information in it about this project. The item before the City Council is the approval of a one-lot subdivision for condominium purposes. On the project, I'll show you the plans that were reviewed by the Planning Commission. This item had a related architectural approval item for the actual construction of the condominium units, the site plan, the landscaping, and the like. And that item was also approved on a 6-0 vote. The property is located in Section 14. The project is consistent with the city's general plan, zoning ordinance, and draft Section 14 master plan. The Planning Commission imposed some conditions with regards to some of the site improvements. The density of the project is substantially below what's maximum allowable on the site. The project is 68 condominium units. The maximum density is 132. The developer did a neighborhood meeting with the Rose Garden condominiums directly to the south, the most directly affected project. You have an outline of that meeting relative to notes. At the Planning Commission, I don't recall that there were any public comments other than those by the applicant. And with that, I'll show you the plans. You're fine. Yeah. Yeah. The project is shown in this series of drawings. The actual item before the council is the most exciting exhibit on the board. It's a one-lot subdivision that basically shows you the perimeter of the property for condominium purposes. The actual site plan is shown here with Barristo Road, Arenas Road. You have a high-density condominium project located to the west, vacant property to the east. Project has one entry on Barristo, as a secondary, more emergency access point on Arenas Road. Basically an internal street system, primary open space area in the center, secondary open space on the east side of the property. Perspective drawing of the interior courtyard. The actual building elevations, this is what you would see on the interior courtyards, these elevations and street elevations, and then interior where you have the garages. You would have the garages here. This project went through 3 or 4 iterations of designs to start working on building articulation, colors, materials, windows, shading, overhangs. It's a little bit different project because some of the units have entries on the second level where you actually would come in, park, and go up. You know, as you can see on the landings, and then there are a few 3-story units. The project is by right of zone, meets all zoning criteria, and that completes our report. Certainly try to answer any questions. Again, the only action before the council is the 1-lot subdivision.
Council, questions on staff report before we open the public hearing? Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on item 18, the tentative track map 31328, otherwise known as Palm Springs Garden LP, please come forward at this time. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council persons, and staff. My name is Maurice Monig, M-O-N-N-I-G. I represent the owner, Palm Springs Gardens Limited Partnership. I want to express my appreciation to Doug and his staff, primarily Jing Yeo, for the professional and courteous manner in which they've dealt with us as we've worked our way through the entitlement process up until this evening. We, as Doug has mentioned, met with design review on several occasions. We met with the Planning Commission study session twice, each time receiving constructive input from those groups, and we have attempted to incorporate those suggestions into the project, and we think that it has resulted in an improved project. We were gratified with as Doug also mentioned, a unanimous approval by the city or by the Planning Commission, a recommendation for an approval from you folks. We're proud of the project. We think it fills a niche in the housing market in downtown Palm Springs, and we're anxious to move ahead. And I'm here as well as David Hacker, our engineer, I should say, and Jim White, our real estate broker, who will handle sales, to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the council during this public hearing? Very good. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Turn to council for questions or action.
I will move the resolution.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Hodges. Thank you, Dana. Council, questions or comments at this time?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
Mr. Evans, I wonder if you could mention to us or talk to us about what the comments were, the final comments were from the design review process.
The design review process did endorse the project after, as I've indicated, a number of different meetings. The project site design was reworked, the driveways, the garage areas, the colors and materials. And what I'm really doing is double checking to see if there were any specific conditions. It's been a while since this was at design review. Decorative paving at the entries to the project. We had some issues relative to some perimeter walls, but I think overall the design of the project was endorsed, and there were no additional conditions added through the design review process other than what I've mentioned.
Do you recall, and I'm not asking for an exact date, Doug, at what time this went through that process? I mean, was it recent, or was it a year ago, or was it 6 months ago, or?
All of the above. We've probably been working on this roughly a year, a little over a year, as far as the design process. The first designs were thoroughly rejected by both Design Review and Planning Commission. They really came back, and while the fundamental site plan concept is still the same, what they did was they really broke up the linear nature of the driveways in the middle, in particular where they are serpentine now. Then they came back in and really restudied the back of the buildings where the garage elevations are, dealt with the architecture, window placement, overhangs, trying to make sure that they had the best design possible. The general feeling all along was the best part of the project is facing the interior pool courtyard for the majority of the units, and when people arrive, they come through an entry gate and they basically drive through a corridor of garages. We talked to the applicant about, how could you maybe change that, and really with a product where they wanted a 2-car garage for each individual unit. There wasn't a lot of alternatives relative to that courtyard without obviously a complete rethinking of the project. And I think at the end of the day, the Design Review Board felt, and we had pretty good range of participation over this period of time from the Design Review Board, that the project was acceptable. Commission first time absolutely rejected it at a study session, and we worked very hard with the applicant, and he brought in a new design team to work on it. So a lot of effort, a lot of input. Can tell you that because of the design, particularly the entryways, a lot of people maybe wouldn't have designed a project this way, but at the end of the day, they felt it was good enough for their endorsement. Because of the type of design, it had some forced issues that took a long time to get comfortable with.
Doug, just looking at the title block, it does not indicate that it was prepared by a licensed architect. Were these drawings prepared by a licensed architect as required by California state law?
I believe that these plans were prepared by somebody under direction. I'd have to do some research, or you may want to ask the applicant. We run into this quite often where they work under the supervision of somebody, and when we ask that question specifically, they bring us a license number.
Okay. I wonder if the applicant could come up to the microphone and answer that question for us, please.
The original design work was done by David Speakerman, who is an architect, has been for 20 years. I don't believe he's licensed in the state. He did the original design work. It has been processed by Kevin Ames, who is a licensed contractor, and it's currently being, the working drawings are being done by Larry Vesley, who is a licensed architect.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I certainly have no expertise in design, but I can't support this. it doesn't do anything for me, so I will not be voting for it. It'd have to, this was my first time looking at it, so,
Doesn't do it, huh?
doesn't do it, not for me.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
I would like to ask Mr. Evans, and really put him on the spot, say, based on the explanation that you just heard regarding this project, does it meet the city's requirements for submission? Because I didn't hear it being that it was designed by a licensed architect in the state of California.
The city's application requirements don't specifically call out a licensed architect. That would be a state law.
But is it your understanding that that's the state law?
I believe it is the state law. I'd have to really do some research as to the application submission, but it's a large enough project that typically we would normally see a licensed architect all the way through the project.
I did see the site plan. That's the reason I asked, because I was wondering if it was a project I had seen some time ago. The site plan is substantially better than I had seen before. In fact, that's why I didn't think it was the same project. But I have similar concerns to Ms. Reller Spurgeon, and I which she just informed me is scary when it comes to architecture. I certainly appreciate the process that's happened here. I just I think it, in my mind, does not meet the quality level that I think is representative of the area. I feel that the project to the west of this doesn't meet it either, and I'm not happy to see that project here. But I just see this as being a continuation of that. So I will not be supporting it as well. Although I think we are looking at a tract map application here, Mr. Evans, and so if there is a desire to go back and perhaps rework the project, what would be the best vehicle at this time for the council to help the applicant?
Well, at this point, you've asked some questions that I think both the city attorney and myself would like to investigate regarding the architecture. Obviously, a motion that does not follow the resolution in your packet, we would have to prepare a resolution, so a continuance with council direction, or you could refer the project back to the Planning Commission, but I think we should probably prepare a resolution and a continuance of the matter while the city attorney and planning staff take a look at the issues, and we bring back a resolution for council's consideration.
If I could just make a comment. Obviously, we've heard some issues about the design. I'm not sure what you think about the density, and I think to some extent I heard kind of general comments that it's sort of like, doesn't catch you. We have a resolution that has a set of findings. The findings in here are based upon the requirements of the Subdivision Map Act. Those findings deal with things like whether it complies with the general and specific plans. They deal with the density of the development. They deal with whether the project will cause substantial environmental damage or substantially injure the environment. Talks about health problems and things like that. So for those kinds of reasons, you can deny the subdivision map. To the extent that certainly if we're thinking about a denial, we would want to continue this and prepare a resolution of denial, which would have a set of findings that would justify a denial, because we don't have anything in a format that really deals with that. Now, in the process of continuing it and asking us to come back with those findings, if there's an ability to talk further with the developer and figure out what some of these issues are, and whether then some adjustments can be made that satisfies those things, that can be done. I think it is, you have a period of time to deal with these projects and act on them one way or the other. So to simply send it back to the Planning Commission without an action creates a problem with respect to that. So I certainly, having a 2-week continuance and asking us to work on a resolution, I don't have a problem with that. And potentially if the developer is willing to go back and work with the Planning Commission, that could occur. But I think to simply send it back to the Planning Commission on the current status would be a problem.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Oden.
Would you please explain 4B, what it means to approve or disapprove the tentative track map?
It's a question for Mr. Alshire?
Yes.
What do you mean when you say 4B? I don't know what you're referring to. Are you talking about the resolution?
Yes.
Well, the resolution, I mean, I kind of just ran through it.
Yes, but I needed to ask you
the resolution incorporates, and it's 18B, incorporates findings that are required by the Subdivision Map Act. And those findings deal not, exactly with design issues, but deal more with, is it consistent with the general plan? Is it consistent with specific plans? Does it, is our drainage and utility, is the infrastructure provided for? Are there environmental issues or concerns? Is the type and density of development? I mean, you can have a project which technically meets the zoning requirements where you basically look at it and say the density of this development is not appropriate and there are environmental issues and concerns. So I think some of the issues you're talking about are certainly relevant. The thing is, to support a denial, we would need to develop that a little further.
Well, as I look at it, I think it is a density issue as far as aesthetically, to me, is the way it appears to be too dense.
Mr. Evans, if I could have you walk me through something here. On page 18A4, under analysis, it speaks to the 68 units requested on 4.3A acres with a maximum allowable density of 132 units. So when we speak to a density issue, the zone, by right of zone, no special exemptions, no conditions. It's 132 units are allowable. Now, how you'd get it to work, aesthetically function, otherwise, could be a challenge based on other limitations, height and so on and so forth, open space. But the density issue is one that I need a little assistance. They're allowed to go 132, and yet they've only gone 68. So although I'm sensitive to the concern of what looks like a high density, in reality, by zone, it could be much higher. So they're almost half what they're permitted. Safe assumption?
That is correct. And to get up to the maximum density in this type of zoning category, you're going to have a high-rise building with underground parking or a structured parking deck. You're going to have a very, very urban form. And they're probably at the absolute maximum density that you can do with this form of parking and circulation.
I agree.
To add another unit to this, this thing collapses. So I think Councilmember Reller-Spurgeon's comment, about, the way the project is designed and the way the density is laid out, and the resulting impacts relative to aesthetics, those were the types of issues that were debated at design review for a year.
And yet, if you take the property, as Mr. Mills indicated, directly to the west, it has probably similar, if not greater density.
Right.
And the property behind the movies, Courtyard 10, the modern pieces that just got done, have probably similar, if not greater density, same kind of compatibility.
They're probably close to this.
Close to this, so that my point being, it exists, it's being built today, and this one, by a density concern, is well within the range, if not by allowable, well below. So although I could be sensitive to some of the concerns, and I can see what both members are expressing, it's hard for me to enforce that when, by right of zone, they're permitted even to double that. And I think what's before us is the approval of a subdivision track map. Speak to us about our approval of the aesthetics, the architectural. Again, it's gone through the process in the committees, and what's before us is a recommendation to accept or deny the track map, and I'm trying to figure out what the findings would be that says this is not an acceptable track map. This is not an aesthetic review, this is a subdivision.
At this point, it is primarily a subdivision review. Obviously, you have a project that goes with it, and you have to make the findings that it's an acceptable project in the community, that you're comfortable with the project. I think that the issue that Councilman Mills asked, is it a legal issue relative to who designed the project and whether or not they're appropriately licensed? I can't answer that tonight.
Right.
And I'm not sure the city attorney can. I think we need to see the track record from the developer of who's worked. So if the council's going in the direction of something other than approving this project, my suggestion would be we probably need more than a 2-week review. I'm just looking at my workload and availability of all the people that need to work on this to evaluate all the issues. If the council's not moving in the direction of the motion, I'm not sure we would be ready in 2 weeks.
Well, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Ode.
I will remove my motion not based upon the discussion, because I believe that we're to just deal with the tentative track map, but because of the legal question regarding the licensure and certification for the approved architect. However, I would like not to have to do that again, that if something comes before us that we know that information.
If the maker of the motion rescinds his motion, and then I imagine the second would collapse. Yes. Second can't exist without a motion. I've only got 2 follow-up questions, and then I'll perhaps try to make a motion. I do not see in the staff conditions anything to deal with Quimby. Is it inappropriate to request Quimby at this point, or have we not done it? What's the response on that?
That is correct. At this point, the Quimby Ordinance 1 is technically not in effect. It's well, actually, it's probably no, it's not quite in effect. Yeah, September 13th. Plus, this map was filed prior to.
That's fine, okay.
So on September 13th forward, any map that's filed, it would apply from then on.
Thank you for that clarification. On the issue of the architect, I think it's extremely important, based on Mr. Mills' concerns and the concurrence by Mr. Oden. What I would like to offer is a substitute motion or a new motion, that if it is the pleasure of the council to approve the project as it is submitted based on the fact that you're reviewing a subdivision map act, and that your only condition is that the applicant demonstrate that the plans are prepared by, or the working drawings will be prepared by, a licensed architect/engineer to the satisfaction of the legal concerns of this great state of California. But allow the procedure to go forward. What I'm reluctant to do is to postpone the movement of this project for 2 weeks, because we don't have a document before us tonight. If they can produce the document, it can go forward. If they can't produce the document, they have a couple of options. 1, come back before us and say, we don't have it, and then we can rescind the approval. Or 2, they can go get someone to obviously deal with the legal application of the law.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Oden.
I'd just like to hear from legal on that.
Well, I've got a motion. I want to seek a second. Approval based on the fact that they've got to bring forward an architect stamp or engineer stamp. No second? Okay.
I guess I'm not clear on what you're asking for.
Well, there's a concern about, were these plans prepared by a licensed architect?
Right.
And does the
Correct.
state require that? And what I'm trying to do is avoid postponing the approval process for 2 weeks to find out whether, one, if it's required, and two, does he have it? So if we approve the project tonight with the condition that they demonstrate legal and professional licensing of the drawings, it can move forward. If they can't, then they have not received the approval, because they have to get a licensed architect to approve.
Are you talking about
This would be true of any project, not just this particular project.
I believe that would be the law. That's what we're asking to find out.
Are you talking about the architectural drawings? A licensed architect approving the architectural drawings? Because the architectural drawings are not in front of you tonight. Certainly, before we go issue permits, we will make sure that there is a properly licensed person who has signed the plans. But the issue now is approving a subdivision map. The subdivision map has to be approved by an engineer. Okay, so the subdivision map, before the city engineer can sign the map, there has to be a licensed engineer that signs it. And that's what's something the city engineer checks on. City council doesn't have to check on who signed the map.
Okay.
But then the motion should stand.
The issue in the subdivision map is these other issues we've talked about, the density, the way that the project is put together. So you're either happy with what you've got in front of you and you can approve it, or you want to deny it or continue it.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Bills.
If what you're saying, Mr. Alshire, is true, then you're saying don't even put up any architectural drawings to look at. Is that right?
No, I
how
don't.
can you judge it on density if
No.
you don't have a project to look at?
No, I didn't. Well, first of all, no, I didn't say that you can't put drawings up unless they're signed by.
No, I'm not. I'm not even going to that point. What I'm saying is, if one of the general plan requirements is density or whatever, you cannot determine that unless you do have the drawings presented with the map itself.
You need drawings, and if you have issues with those drawings, that's the drawings in front of you. That is a reason to seek other information or clarification or whatnot.
And there are several other elements of the general plan that have to do with aesthetics.
I have no problem with that. I'm just, the way that motion was being phrased was the only issue is whether or not a certified person signed this. And that's.
That motion didn't get a second.
Okay.
Didn't get a second.
No.
Mr. Mayor?
No, Mr. Roden.
I will move the resolution.
And I will second that. As submitted. Further questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment, and
Yep.
I will say that I understand that the track map is what is before us, and I want you to understand that I understand that. And I also want you to understand that this is the first time I saw this project, and I only have to go by what I see. And I have to put my head on the pillow at night and have my own conscience, and I cannot approve something that I look at that is not in what I feel is in the best interest of the city of Palm Springs. So I still won't be supporting it, and I want you to understand why.
Understood.
Thank you.
Other council comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hodges.
I think it's important, since I've been on the council, there have been at least 2 or 3 times when we've done trap maps, and you do see the project, and you do visualize what the project's going to look like. And to be quite honest, they're wrong. They're small. They're tiny. They're too small for the project. They shouldn't be on the piece of property that they're being put on, and they just shouldn't be there. But not all of us can visualize that. And see that at the time you're starting the process, and this is when you're starting the process. Now, yes, you can come back next week with a terrific house, a beautiful home put on this project, and that would be wonderful, and that would be terrific. And that's maybe what it'll end up being, but it may not be. And I'm going to have to vote against it because I just don't like the process here. I would rather not see any drawings and just give me a blank map and say this is what you're approving tonight, and let me take it from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other council questions or comments? I'll ask for a roll call then.
Ms. Hodges?
No.
Mr. Mills?
No.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Ross Persian?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It fails 2-3. Council, what's your pleasure at this point? What's your direction? I think the applicant would want to know what to do at this point after the process. What do you want him to do?
Well, personally, I would like to see him design something else. I think it's the design, if that's what he's going to do, or otherwise come back with a clean slate, a clean map. And if he wants just the title transferred, and let us go from there.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
I'm going to suggest a continuance to our next meeting. And I know Mr. Alshire, and I agree with him, that this is not an issue, this particular item is not an issue whether the architect is licensed or not, although I would like that addressed for future reference, if nothing else. But I would like a little more time to think about this, and if because it definitely from a development standpoint, it rubs me the wrong way what we just did. But on the other hand, from what I think the quality of life of the city and the quality of the structures in this city and the quality of design in the city, which is definitely a part of the general plan, of which this has to adhere to, this does not meet the requirements in my mind. And as Mr. Evans stated, it is, and as the mayor did, it is definitely under density, but being under density doesn't mean it's a good project. And that density is where it is for a reason, and it generates a specific kind of project. And if you try to do something differently, then it can cause problems, as I think this has done. But I personally, I need to think about it. This is something I was not expecting at all. So my motion is for a continuance for 2 weeks, and I don't think we need a change in a resolution.
So, just so I understand that, Doug had suggested 2 meetings. You don't really need additional staff work, and you're not expecting the preparation of a resolution of denial. We would just come back with the same package.
Well, I think in the effort there is that I personally need a little more time to evaluate the situation. Given the amount of time that I've had, I voted the way that I felt, but I may not feel that way in 2 weeks or whatever it is, given a little more time to think through the issue.
Other council questions or comments? Is there a second for the continuance? No second for the continuance?
I'll second it.
You're going to second a continuance for 2 weeks. Okay, discussion. I'm going to refer the council to page 18-2B, which is the backside of the resolution before you. And again, it's based on findings, and what I'm trying to establish is what are the findings that the, seemingly the majority of the council have that somehow preclude the approval. It is in conformity with general plan and specific plan. It meets density, it meets setback, it meets opens, it meets those parameters that we define as acceptable development. Now, aesthetics can be debated for the rest of time, no matter who you are or what you're looking at, from a pair of shoes to a painting on the wall. But I don't believe what is before us tonight is an aesthetic review. I think what's before us tonight is, does it conform with the findings as stated in the resolution? And I have difficulty supporting anything that cannot justify a finding that says this shouldn't happen. I mean, I have yet to hear why this does not meet all that the applicant is required to meet. The aesthetics, again, are not before us. We're not asked to review the quality of the design. That process was handled before it got here. Is that correct? It was handled before then. So all we're obligated to do is review, under the conformity of a number of parameters, does this project meet that? And if so, under the Subdivision Map Act, make a determination that it's approved or not. Now, I can be sensitive to the concerns you may have about aesthetics and density and the way it looks and the way it makes you feel, but I don't think you have the ability nor the authority to deal with that in what's before you tonight that's agendized. The agenda doesn't say, will the council please discuss the aesthetics of the project? And as Dana says, typically all we ever get is sort of a footprint of a subdivision. We rarely get the aesthetics. We don't get the architecture. And when we do, we're told it is not an architectural review. It's there to help you to understand the project, but that is not what's before you. What you want to know is, does it meet subdivision law? And that's all I'm asked to look at tonight. And I question what else we're looking for outside that restrictive review. And if I'm missing it, legal or other staff members, let me know. This is basically reviewing the map based on the findings that the staff report has. And nowhere in the findings does it say it's not in conformity. Correct? No special exemptions, no variance, no exceptions requested, no density bonus. For all practical purposes, it's by right of zone.
Mr. Mayor, we're asked to agree with the findings. What I'm telling you is that part of the requirements of the general plan are aesthetics. And I agree with you 100% that, that aesthetics could vary all up and down this board and all through this audience, and does on several occasions. My reason for my vote was I don't think it meets the general plan requirements from an aesthetic standpoint.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Oden.
I agree with you completely. Hello.
I think it's more consistent than people believe.
It is. It really,
It really
is.
is.
It really is. And I actually only second the motion because if we need more time to deal with what we just talked about, then okay. But the fact is, we do have a process. This project has gone through that process. And we are here just really to do one thing, and that's just the tentative track map. Now, I know that there's some concerns about the aesthetics, but those issues where we have the Planning Commission and the architectural review to do those things.
And the community, which there have been reviews of the neighborhood.
Yes.
So, again, I can be as sensitive about aesthetics when called to do so, but I don't think it's within our purview tonight. And if you have a belief to the contrary, then obviously we'll continue this. All I would ask is that you be as clear for the developer as to what it is you want to do in the next 2 weeks or whatever it takes for the continuance, so that if he has work to do, he can do it. But right now, I don't think he knows what do you want him to do? I mean, what do you want him? Is he just supposed to sit and wait for a call, or is there something he's supposed to do, review, prepare, formulate, calculate? I'm sure he'd conform with whatever request the council might have, if it could be articulated.
My request was for more time to study the issue.
Okay.
That's what my request was for.
Okay.
And there was a second to that.
There has been a second by Mr. Roden. I concur with that. All right. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of continuing this till the next meeting, is it 2 weeks continued then? Date certain 2 weeks? Concurrence by Mr. Evans, he can handle that in 2 weeks? Okay? In 2 weeks, we'll bring this back for council review, and the packet will be defined as it is tonight with just a new date on it. Okay? All those in favor of continuing for 2 weeks, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
I'm opposed. All right, well, you got a 3-2 for continuance, and we'll see you back here in 14 days. Thank you for your patience, sir. Item 19 is Historic Site Preservation Board. Yeah, okay. We're going to take a short recess. It's 9:30. We'll be back in hopefully 10 minutes. ladies. Thank you. We'll call the meeting back to order. We did that in 7 minutes. That's very good, Council. Very nice. Let's now turn to item 19, Historic Site Preservation Board, designation number 46, the Edris House. And I'll turn to Mr. Reddy for his staff's report on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This was approved 6-0 by the Historic Site Preservation Board to have it as a Class 1 site, historic site, and your approval is recommended. Doug Evans can answer any particular questions if you have them. Thank you.
I have thousands of questions.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
If we just had our planning director here to answer those questions. He's apparently outside. Do you have any questions on this?
No, I'll move approval.
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills and a second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. I only request one thing for future purposes on historic site preservation. Inasmuch as I am not familiar with this particular house by the address, I may recognize it by a photograph. And if in the future, just a simple photograph of what we are looking at might be helpful for the council's understanding. I'm sure if we saw that, oh yeah, that house.
Yeah.
But without a photograph, it's absence of recognition.
We're done.
Well, you got it right here? Good. Let's take a look at it. Doug, we have a motion on the floor for approval and a second, so we'll just take a quick look at it.
Oh, that house.
Oh!
Report is, this is the house. You've got a site plan of the house. It's about as strong a piece of design as you can find in town. And I would like to say in the resolution, they cannot remove or destroy the Dixie Cup lights. That was, yeah, they go inside and out. Yeah, they go right on through. There's a series of them inside the house as well as outside.
Mr. Evans, and this was at the request of the owner, correct?
The owner certainly is very supportive of this and has worked with us all the way through, and surprised is not here, but may have gone home. Yep.
Oh, he is
Owner
here.
is
Excellent. Excellent.
Get my glasses on.
Very good. Well, we got a motion and a second for approval.
Did
Any
you-
further comments or questions?
Did you open the hearing yet?
No, I did not. You're absolutely right. I'm going to remove the motion in the second and open the hearing. How's that? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on item 19, Historic Site Preservation Board 46. Edris House, please come forward at this time. You're good. Seeing none. We'll close the public hearing. Mr. Mills, would you like to reinstate your motion?
Yes, I would.
And Ms. Reller Spurgeon, would you reinstate your
Absolutely.
second for approval?
Yes.
Any further comments? One quick one, we always appreciate it when the owner of the property wants the designation because he or she understands the architectural significance of the property they own. We don't always have that ease of putting these designations on. Sometimes we have to convince, dare I say. So we appreciate you preserving a part of our history, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? It's 4-0. It's deemed unanimous. We are now going to move to items 20, 21, and 22. These are 3 conditional use permits for Verizon Wireless. And we're going to try to merge all this. Mr. City Attorney, you're okay with the merger of these 3 as one single public hearing?
Yes, you can conduct it that way if, unless one of the parties wishes to have a separate hearing.
Thank you. Again, everyone can come speak accordingly. Item 20 is case 5.0902. It is a CUP B for Verizon Wireless at 1776 North Palm Canyon Drive. Item 21 is case number 5.0946, CUP again for Verizon Wireless, located at 3455 North Indian Avenue. And item 22 is case number 5.0961. It is again a CUP for Verizon Wireless located at 6545 North Indian Canyon. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I would turn to Mr. Evans and ask him to give the staff report. Thank you.
Mr. Reddy, Mr. Evans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Every once in a while, this aerial photograph actually works for a couple of items. The first item is located on North Palm Canyon Drive, between Palm Canyon Drive and Indian. It's basically just north of the existing gas station, just south of the existing Billy Reed's Restaurant and what used to be the Stroke Activity Center, as well as Southern California Edison Building. There's an existing cell site at that location. The second public hearing item, before I cover up the board, is located at the Lumberman site up on North Indian Canyon Drive. It's in the back industrial portion of the project, so you can't really see the actual base of the cell tower, but you would be able to see it in the distance. The other one is located so far north it's off this map. So we'll go through each one individually, give you a quick overview. Again, North Indian Canyon, North Palm Canyon Drive, an existing Edison substation, an existing cell tower located in that location. It's 55 feet in height. It's a similar type palm tree design with, and you can actually pick it out of the photographs if you look real carefully. The new tower is located in this location in an alley that does not have any easements or needs. So the cell tower comes back into this location, has access off of both sides so that there's easy access to the facility. Design of the facility is this design with the actual antenna up in the palm fronds. There will be a requirement for some landscaping around it. One of the things that we've tried to do is work with cell companies at the direction of council to look at coverage, and I'd like to say Verizon is one of the few companies that will give us coverage maps, and they would basically show you two different versions. The Planning Commission approval was at 45 feet, unless they could demonstrate to the Director of Planning and Zoning that there were substantial problems, and then it could go up to 55 feet. I just assume that the council decide at 47 or 55. And basically, if you take a look at the site, you get the propagation at 45 feet. Green is the best coverage. Yellow is a little bit less. Red is the least amount of coverage. And you're going to pick up a little bit more coverage into the west side of Palm Springs, into the Panorama, Little Tuscany, and getting into northern Las Palmas, maybe not quite to Morito Vista, if you have a 55-foot tower versus a 47-foot tower. So the issue of 47 versus 55, we'd ask the council to put that in your motion. The existing tower is 55. I'm not sure many people would see much difference unless you really got back from a distance and really started to look.
The existing is 55?
The existing tower on site is 55. Item number 21 is the site that's located up at Lumberman's. It's located back on the interior part of the property. The site plan really doesn't show it very well insofar, but it's really back buried in the middle of the property. You can see existing condition, proposed condition, and then they would be required to plant some palm trees. So again, you're going to see this really in the background, and this was recommended for approval at 47 feet. I believe that was the applicant's request, if I recall. The third item is located up on North Indian Canyon Drive, located really up near Hole in the Wall, north of the railroad tracks, up near the Spur Road. If you take a look at this aerial photograph, here's the railroad spur area. The project location is here. It's really backdropped in most directions, either by utility lines or wind turbines, and wind turbines are in the 300-foot range in this neighborhood. This is a 70-foot high, just column tower. Monopole. The actual antenna, is flush with the pole. So it's just a pole. We and the Planning Commission felt that to try to make this look like a palm tree in the middle of what really is a utility area would look foreign. We did talk about whether or not a Dutch windmill would look good, but it was out of character too. And the Planning Commission was very comfortable with just the most minimal structure you can put. Don't call attention to it, leave it alone. Those are the three items. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 on 21 and 22. And on item 20, that was a 6-1 vote. Commissioner Matthews did vote no on that item. And I don't remember why, and we've tried to abbreviate the Planning Commission minutes, so I'd have to go back to the notes from the meeting.
Okay.
But they were recommended for approval. We had public hearings on all three and no public comments.
Thank you. Council, questions on items 20, 21, or 22 at this time?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills?
Mr. Evans, on the last one, the one at, out by the freeway, that's a monopole 70 feet high. Would that type of a pole work at the other locations?
Just a
non-armed pole.
They could. We'd have to take a look at the height. I'm not sure if you were on council. We had that type of tower proposed at the fire station on Racket Club to just make it either a flagpole or just a tower. And, you know, the commission recommended just put a tower in, and the council was concerned that really wasn't acceptable in that location. But yes, they could do. The applicant is here. He could tell you whether or not they could do a column. Oftentimes they love that idea because they don't have to pay for the palm tree.
And the other thing on that same one, I noticed they're surrounded by a chain link fence. We don't approve chain link fences. I was under the impression.
Oh, in this one, it is surrounded by a chain link fence. It's probably the best material in that location. If the council would like us to go to a stronger fence material or wrought iron or something, we could. I suspect we're going to end up not only on this tower, because it's in such a remote location, I have a feeling they will come back and ask for some additional security around it if they're not very lucky.
Is it a chain link fence with inserts?
It is a 8-foot high chain link fence. Does not have inserts. We could certainly add them. In that area, they will collect debris and eventually get sand accumulated against them, and eventually it will get crushed. I mean, it's a really tough location if you don't let things blow through.
How do you approve chain link in one location and not in another location?
I believe the ordinance does have provisions for approval of chain link and fencing materials. If you look at the conditional use permit provisions, fencing materials and those types of things are a considerable item under conditional use permit. But again, in most locations, these are behind block walls. You could ask for a block wall, you know, to screen this. That would probably be better than slats.
I wasn't really thinking slats. I was just thinking that they were asking for them. So,
yeah,
because I didn't want to see those either. So. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Okay.
Other questions on staff's report before we open the public hearing? Very good. This is a public hearing for items 20, 21, and 22. I have one card requesting is it McLeod?
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Norman McLeod. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Norman McLeod with Delta Groups Engineering, representing Verizon Wireless. Staff has done a fine job in pretty much describing the scope of our installation proposals throughout, I think it's the Indian Canyon corridor there. I guess I could answer any questions you have at this time. I guess the one issue was if we could slimline all the poles in lieu of a palm tree with a full antenna hat. That is something I'd have to defer to RF engineers. I've worked with them before in doing slimline pole installations, only in particular cases where if you have less of an urban type area, less traffic, less residences, things of that nature, they want to get as many antenna panels as they can into the air. With a slimline, you're somewhat limited in the scope or number of panels you can basically attach to the pole because it's so close. They need separation between the panels to avoid interference between each of the receiving and sending panels. The ones you see that are near, I think it's the first item 20 and 22, 20 and 21, those are more in urbanized areas, and as you know, development is moving its way toward, I think, the north. If you take it that way, see some development going out there. So if you look at the radius maps, or rather the propagation maps, the red reflects somewhat compromised signal, yellow is better signal, and green is pretty much in-building, in-house coverage. People are going wireless in their homes. That's the goal that Verizon has. That's the picture that they have for their future, to provide wireless service where you walk out your front door to your car and commute. So I guess to answer your question, to go slimline on all installations, I doubt that's possible. But for the instance out there by the windmills, there's obviously less population, less need for in-building coverage, more traffic coverage they're needing out there. Are there any other questions I can answer for you? I did have one question. I think it was with the elevation of the first candidate there, item number 20, going to 47 feet. I worked with RF Engineering. They agreed that they could bring it down 7, 8 feet. You notice the coverage is not as optimal in their eyes. They like to keep it at 55 feet if that's possible. So be it. If not, they're willing to live with the 47-foot top of pole, 45-foot rad center, the radiation center of the actual antenna itself. All right, thank you.
Very good. Other comments or questions? What is the council's pleasure at this time? I'll close the public hearing. Thank you. And turn to council for direction.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden.
I will move all three with the number 20 being 55.
Thank you.
We have one existing already.
Second.
Second by Ms. Rella Spurgeon. Any other discussion points or questions?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mills.
Mr. Evans, are the two, 20 and 21, you mentioned there are additional palm trees required to go with those? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Meaning group, so it appears as a group, correct?
Yeah, it would be a cluster of palm trees, and I think the conditions also talk about within certain proximities so that you don't just have them jammed against the base, that you have them spread out so they give a good feel. The one at North Indian, at the existing site location, the 55-footer, if you go look for it, you'll find it, but I'd be willing to bet you most people drive by. I did several times before I recognized that, oh, they actually built it. But they're high enough that in most of your visibility you look underneath, but we do have the cluster of palm trees.
Great. Are we qualifying the heights of those palm trees, sir?
We're going to work with them on the final development plans, and we have a good track record of pushing the height of palm trees to the point where the applicants don't like the height.
Must be right then.
At 55 feet, it makes no sense to put a 20-foot tree up.
Right.
It's not worth putting up. So we try to work with them, and we've had pretty good luck in the field with the applicants.
Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate the idea of the palm poles when applicable. I don't have a problem with the 65-45 North Indian. I think that's okay out there. But I do appreciate the effort to put the sort of softening in the fabric of the city. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Thank you, sir. We'll turn now to council comments, announcements, or interagency reports. Council, we've been dark for a month. Okay, we'll move on then. Let's go to our legislative action. First item is item 23, zoning ordinance amendments. We have 3 here, first introduced on 7/30 of this year. Our first ordinance is an outdoor display uptown district. The second one is non-conforming use and structures. And the third is a change of zone SP1 to PD 269, a tentative track map 30046. What is the council's pleasure on this? I believe they've been first introduced. Is this second reading? Second reading. Okay.
I'll move the three ordinances,
Second.
waiving text for second reading.
Thank you. Motion for approval by Ms. Rella Spurgeon, second by Mr. Oden, asking that the clerk read title, waiving text. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you'll read the title of each of the three, please.
In the first instance, this would be an ordinance of the City of Palm Springs, California, amending the zoning ordinance in regard to Section 92.12.00 C1 Retail Business Zone and Section 92.09.00 CBD Central Business District Zone to allow outdoor display of limited merchandise in the uptown area. The second ordinance would be amending the zoning ordinance in regard to Chapter 94.00, Section 94.05 non-conforming uses and structures ordinance to provide a relief mechanism for multifamily residential uses and a transient type use hotel affected by the 1973 and 1995 down zoning ordinance number 951 and ordinance number 1513. And the third would be amending the zoning map by approving a change of zone from R1B, WR1B, and SP1 to PD 269 for the property located north of Bogart Trail, east of Goldenrod Lake, and west of the Palm Canyon Wash, Zone R1B, WR1B, SP1, Section 35.
Very good, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rella Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It's 4-0. It's all deemed unanimous. Item 24 is a resolution of convenience and necessity for 1566 North Palm Canyon.
Item 25.
And you want to blend this with item 25, which is also a resolution of convenience and necessity for 3689 North Indian Canyon. Mr. Reddy, a staff report on both these?
Thank you. On number 24 is a reapplication, and that is beer and wine only. And on number 25, I would ask Mr. Evans to cite the particulars. Thank you.
Thank you.
On item 25, this is the USA Gas Market located at North Indian Canyon Drive. 3689 is the address. It's operated before with this type of action. The conditional use permit is still in effect. What happened is the license became no longer valid. They had to reapply to the ABC. We've consulted with the police department and provided that they follow the ABC rules and have their cameras in place required by local ordinance, which we verified they do. The police department did not have a concern, and we are recommending approval of that one. And then the one, item number 24, the reapplication, that actually was denied on a 2-2 vote by the City Council, and I can certainly answer any questions regarding Santa Maria Meat Market. We've not received any complaints in the past year regarding that land use.
Okay.
That completes our report, Mr. Mayor. We'll certainly try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I've got a request for to speak card here on item 25, and is Mr. Dick Evett here? Would you like to come forward, sir? And did you want to speak also? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Dick Evett. I'm representing the applicant. He could not be here tonight. I'll answer any questions that you need. I'll be glad to take care. I'm just here as a consultant for him.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
That's all I need. Thank you.
Good to go. Thank you. Ma'am, did you want to say anything? Good evening. If you'll pull the microphone down. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council and staff.
You'll give your name to the city clerk, please.
My name is Maria Quevedo, and I'm here just for the second time, well, to see if I can have the convenience letter. And we have a small market, we just opened a year ago. We were having a market before in Cathedral City, and we moved to Palm Springs. And as my license has not have any violations or anything, so whatever, just the letter from the city. And then I can present it to the ABC. That's what they need for me to allow me to operate. And it's just for the beer and wine. There's no hard liquor.
Very good. Thank you, Maria.
Yep.
Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden?
25 is simply a reapplication, and 24, I guess, in a sense, is the same thing and reapplying. And I will move both resolutions.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden. I'll second both of those. Any further discussion? Ms. Rella Spurgeon? Well, go figure. We can just play the tape from the other ones, but go ahead, please.
Yeah. I will not be supporting either one of these, consistent with my past behavior. I do not support the lending of my name and to a letter of convenience of necessity for the purchase of liquor.
And you have been consistent in that statement. We have a motion by Mr. Oden, a second by myself. Any further discussions or comments? If not, I'll ask for the clerk to give roll, please.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Ross Spurgeon?
No?
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, 3-0, it is approved. Item 26 was handled earlier in the agenda schedule. Item 27 is a comprehensive fee schedule amendment for parks fees. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is a companion resolution to bring us our fees up to date with the Quimby Act that was passed previously by council action, and we recommend your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, questions on staff's report? What's the council's pleasure?
Move the resolution.
Second?
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills and second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. Additional comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Oden?
I will not be supporting this. I've made the comments before. I do support the Quinby. I do not like the hybrid that we have developed, but that's it.
And you have been consistent with that.
Yes, I have.
Very good. We've got a motion by Mr. Mills and second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. I'll ask the clerk for a roll, please.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
No.
Ms. Ross Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Gleefully, yes. Approve. Support, yes. Aye. Item 28, 2003-2004 Allocated Position and Compensation Plan Amendment Number 3. Mr. Reddy.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is requesting, in addition to our allocated position and compensation plan, this is a state grant that comes to us via the school district, and it is for a family intervention officer and to work in the police department. It is a 3-year grant. We recommend its approval. It's for an actual officer. In the event that this grant is not renewed again by the state and after 3 years, then this person would be absorbed into the current force as positions attrited. So in the event that the state funding goes away, we still would not have an additional burden on the general fund. But for now, this 3-year grant is recommended approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Council questions?
Move the resolution.
Second?
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills and second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. Quick question, page 28, A2, fiscal impact. Costs to the city of Palm Springs for fiscal year 2003-2004 will be in kind in the amount of $47,000. This is the car and the maintenance and the laptop, computer, cell phone, and pager. Are these new, or are these ones that are already being used? Are we buying all new vehicles? How is that being handled?
I'd ask the chief to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And if you could talk about the $17,000 per year for the years not including the car. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, this is a car that we already have that was allocated. It was the Explorer that we talked about, I think it was about a month ago, that we had already allocated for the police department. And what we were going to do with it at the time was give it to a commander, but we have now allocated it to the family intervention officer, the idea that he'll be able to transport families and make it more useful for his program.
What does the commander drive then? Does he keep his existing car, or do we buy him a car?
Well, we have one who's off injured, so we recovered that car, so now we'll have to deal with that when we get the commander back.
So no new vehicles are required at this time?
No, not at this time.
No, okay. Okay, very good. All right, we got a motion for approval, Mr. Mills, second by Ms. Reller Spurgeon. Additional comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 4-0. Item 29 is Keith McCormick's Palm Springs Exotic Car Auction. I will note my abstention. Mr. McCormick is a client of my wife's office, so I'll abstain and pass gavel to Mr. Oden.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This is a license agreement, and it's requested your approval. This process has been through Main Street with their full approval. Jerry Ogburn has shepherded through and talked to all the affected parties. Actually, the stakeholders, restaurants downtown, seem to have embraced this. As you heard Mr. McCormick speak earlier, it is November 22nd and 23rd, and it's recommended for approval. Thank you.
Council, any questions on the report?
Nope, I'll move the minute order.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? I'd just like to say Mr. McCormick has been a strong advocate and supporter in our community, especially with these shows. And based upon the recommendation that we made for
The November.
For November, we also asked the staff to look at qualifications for the usage. Where are we in that process? Because he has requested a second year.
Actually, that discussion is going to take place at Main Street tomorrow, led by Mr. Ogburn, and we'll come back to the council with a recommendation at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, then we have a motion on the floor at this time.
And a second.
And a second. Roll call?
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Ms. Rosbergen?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. Passes 3 unanimously, 1 abstention.
Yes.
And I will pass gavel to Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Oden. We'll turn now to item 30, which is the Palm Springs Police Officers Golf Tournament Fee Waiver. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As you heard earlier from Joy Meredith, this is for a charitable purpose for equipment that they buy for the police department. The one caveat here is they're requesting the fee waiver for the golf course through 2005. So actually it is a 3-year request. Usually these come before you every year. The actual cost to the city is approximately $5,800 to $6,200 is what the revenue loss they anticipate. But again, the money goes to police equipment. Thank you.
So moved.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and second by Mr. Mills.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ellis Spurgeon.
I don't mean to contradict you, but it says in the staff report that the money is used for scholarships for law enforcement and maintenance of the police memorial statue.
Yeah, that's the charitable part. But Joy had indicated on the equipment, and actually the chief, maybe the chief can comment on that and clear up any misinformation. Thank you, Chief.
This is a joint with the alumni, working with the Police Officer Association. They have an agreement that they will give some money to the alumni, but the alumni has intentions of doing some equipment, such as with our lab. But the majority of that money is going to go to that scholarship and the maintenance of the memorial out in front of the police department.
Thank you for the correction, Chief.
And I think you should be corrected. This is not money to the police department. This is money to the PSPOA.
Right.
Correct?
Right. This is to our Police Officer Association, not directly to the police department. They, in turn, will give something to the alumni who's going to help them with the tournament. And they then will do something for the police department. The alumni is going to become an arm for the police department for fundraisers, and that's what Joy's going to help us with.
Okay.
They're going to be separate from the Police Officer Association.
Let me get clarification, Chief. Joy came forward, President of the Alumni Association. Is that the CPAA? Citizens Police
Right.
Academy Association?
And she's the vice president.
All right, well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Secretary. She's on that board.
She's on the board. We can both agree on that.
Yes.
Position yet to be determined.
Right.
The intent of her comments was that there's a goal of raising $100,000 to buy a lab, right? Was the public comment,
Yes.
right? What I don't see based on Jeannie's comment is, where's the lab comment here? Is there something that we're missing? Money gets collected by
believe
PSPOA. It
Probably
gets-
the staff report that was prepared by the POA shows that it's going to them. And what they do is for the assistance of the alumni, because the alumni goes out and does a lot of facilitating the golf course and doing things for them, that they then, in return for their help, give them something to their fund, to the alumni fund. But it primarily goes to the POA. They control the money, then they give it to the alumni. But the gist of this money is to go to the scholarship and to the memorial. But they help out the alumni who comes out to assist them.
And that is not in the staff report. Parks and Rec Department Commission had asked what the money was used for, and then the PSPOA came back with what I read to you. But it's fine, Gary.
That's my understanding. This is the Police Officers Association's thing. I'm just trying to help.
You no longer remember the PSPOA?
No, I got removed when I got promoted.
Lost another thing, huh?
Yes, I did.
That bag's almost empty, isn't it, buddy? All right, council, what you have before you is a request for waiver. You've got a motion by Mr. Oden, second by Mr. Mills. Any further comments or questions? I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rose Virgin? Aye. Mr. Mayor?
Aye. Passes 4-0. Item 31 is a municipal code amendment for curfew and truancy. Mr. Reddy, I'll ask for your staff report on this. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As part of our overall comprehensive plan to review our policies and procedures and bring them up to date, the city attorney's office has looked at this particular one and has recommended these changes and is with our recommendation that you approve as such. Thank you. I would note that it doesn't change the hours, it's just some of the verbiage in the policy itself.
Okay. Council, what's your pleasure on this? Questions?
I have no questions. I'll move the ordinance for introduction and first reading.
Second. Motion for approval by Ms. Rose Spurgeon, second by Mr. Mills. I have a question. Based on Mr. Reddy's opening comments about the intent of reviewing and updating some of our ordinances, what triggered this one? It says in the staff report, recent court decisions. Is that what triggered this?
No, really what triggered it is the city every year, Book Publishing, who publishes our municipal code, does a review of our ordinances, and they do ordinances all over the country, municipal codes. And so they sort of have things they look for, and then they give us a memo on, here's a list of things you ought to look at. So they gave us that list. It wasn't just the curfew. There were several other things on the list. We went back and looked at it. There is a court decision, and basically some of these exceptions to the curfew in our old ordinance were a little vague, and so we corrected the ordinance pursuant with this Nunes case, and the department wants to get this done because some of the events that occur in town, the curfew issue is an important enforcement tool.
I'm pleased about this. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that we are looking at ordinances that are on the book and we're looking to upgrade them for greater enforceability. Okay? What I don't know is what system. You talked about the book publishing. Is what you refer to?
Book publishing.
Are all of our ordinances somehow reviewed periodically, or is this just sort of a random as it occurs based on court? How do we systematically go about reviewing our ordinances?
Well, certainly. If our office was involved with something and saw an ordinance and knew that it's an ordinance in Palm Springs is similar and there's a problem, that's one way that we would come back and say, gee, we just saw, or we were looking at researching something or other and came across a code provision and said, that's kind of odd. We would raise the issue. But beyond that, book publishing is the publishing entity that publishes our code, and every year, every time you adopt an ordinance, we send it to book publishing, and they prepare it in a form to be printed up and print it, and then send it to the city clerk, and the city clerk includes it in the code. Book publishing, one of the things that they do is they periodically kind of go through and look at codes, because on their system they've got several hundred code books, and that's why you get a lot of similarity in certain code provisions from one community to another, because there's kind of a standard format that they use. So If they are using something that turns out a court has said there's a problem with it, then they will go, they will inform their various clients, which are the cities that they publish codes for, that they have problems. We tend to, every year, get a list of 5 or 6 things to look at, and working with the police department, we've been fixing those.
Okay. Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Ellis-Burgeon, second by Mr. Mills. Any additional comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, I will ask for a roll. This is ordinance for first reading.
Yeah, Mrs. Ellis-Burgeon moved it to read and waiving the text.
Thank
read
you.
title.
If you'll read title, please.
Yes, sir. This would be an ordinance of the City of Palm Springs, California, revising a portion of Chapter 11.56 of the Palm Springs Municipal Code relating to curfew and truancy.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis-Burgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, it is 4-0. It's deemed unanimous. Mr. Reddy, are there any added legislative items at this time?
There are, Mr. Mayor. I believe 32 has been withdrawn. 32A does need to be acted upon.
So I think that's in the front of your agenda packet. Give you a moment to locate it, because I need a moment to locate mine. Here it is. Got it?
Yep.
Item 32 was withdrawn. Item 32A is case 5.0667. This is the parking lot plan review for the Spa Resort Casino for the Agua Caliente Banaquilla Indians. Mr. Reddy, I'll ask for your staff report.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is a companion piece to the earlier license agreement that you approved, and I would ask Mr. Evan to give the particulars on this issue. Thank you.
Yes, we gave you a quick staff report, and let me give you an overview. This is a proposed parking lot on tribal trust land that's owned by the tribal council for the benefit of the tribal members. It's not allotted Indian land. It is not subject to the city's land use agreement. It is subject to our cooperative review agreement, where there's a process by which the tribe allows the city to review tribal projects that the tribe will review and issue permits on. In this particular case, this is a parking lot for 166 parking spaces. The address is a vacant lot today that's being used for construction staging purposes on 400 North Indian Canyon Drive. The Planning Commission reviewed this. And they recommend that you provide comments to the tribal council. One, that the parking lot lighting not exceed 3-foot candles with an attempt to be closer to 1-foot candle. I think you heard public comments regarding that issue today, and with regards to the Prairie Schooner site and other possible parking lots in Section 14. A suggestion to not use jacaranda trees where cars will park underneath them. They're a bit messy and can split in high winds and become a problem. They're a beautiful tree, but not right above cars. And number 3, that there are some very minor adjustments in the parking area relative to dimensions, and we would encourage the tribe to consider having the lot comply with our section with regards to parking dimensions. Commission looked at this on August 23rd, made these recommendations. The City Council really has options tonight. You could adopt the resolution that's recommended by the Planning Commission, and again, you're not approving anything. All you're doing is conveying your thoughts to the Tribal Council on a project that they have permit authority. You could choose to say nothing. The tribe's representatives and team has been to the Planning Commission. They know what the Planning Commission concerns are. They've obviously been very attentive to community concerns in the past. Or the council could obviously change these recommendations. Let me show you the plans. The parking lot is located on North Indian, and just to show you the location, if I could have prop assistance, please. The location of this site is this parcel. It's 400 feet, 165 feet in width and 475 feet in depth. It's located north of the existing buildings, north of Amato Road. Would only be in that location. The tribe has started some discussions about possibly leasing the adjoining properties, but they've not gone through the Bureau of Indian Affairs process, so it's not a project yet. It's something they're looking at. So again, this proposal is to add 166 parking spaces on Indian Canyon Drive, basically have one driveway and another driveway. Insofar as the parking lot improvements, it's pretty darn close to meeting all the city specifications. And again, this is a tribal permit. You have the ability to comment, not comment, or change the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Doug, this is a public lot?
This would be a parking lot intended for the use of the hotel and casino. So it's diagonally, a little bit northwest of the casino, directly opposite their existing parking facilities, and right now it's covered with construction activity.
Not a valet lot or restricted use, it's just an open public lot with the intent of serving the needs of the casino.
At this point, it's our understanding it would be open. They are intending to have a shuttle system to bring people back to the casino as they do in all their parking lots.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mills.
Doug, so it is anticipated then that they would expand the lot to the north and the south? Is that what they're, because it doesn't meet our normal requirement for the side yard parking, the 5 feet?
They are working with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the allottees to see if they could expand this.
Okay.
They would like to be able to proceed to have some additional parking in the area. As you well know, they have a grand opening event, and they are trying to pick up some additional parking for that.
The only comment that I would have would be that if they could stagger the driveways, it doesn't make any difference if you move the Indian one north and then City one, to leave it where it is, but stagger them so it doesn't become a shortcut, which it very well could be, to somebody avoiding a signal. That would help. As a suggestion.
Okay, any action, any direction, any other comments? A resolution here, if you'd like to take a look at it, with the recommendation of Mr. Mills to be added to it.
Yeah, I would move the resolution with the comment.
Motion for approval by Mr. Mills.
Second.
Second by Mr. Oden with the comment about offsetting driveways.
That's a good one.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Record shows 4-0. At this point, are there any added starters, sir?
There are none.
Thank you. Under reports or requests, council reports or requests? I only have one. There has been an issue of security in the parking structure downtown. I wonder if, in fact, the council could get some sort of a report as to how we can deal with the security issues down there, whether it's increased patrol, private security, cameras through surveillance, and what perhaps initially what the cost might be to provide the additional protection. There have been some reports, I think the council's probably seen those, about some activity that's concerning some of the merchants downtown. If we just find out how we might be able to address it, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I also have a request.
Please.
I'd like to have a report on the procurement credit cards that we dealt with a few months ago.
Oh, way, a long time ago.
Just want to know how they're, the use, the patterns, the report on it? Okay.
Yes.
Any dollar amount, or just want to see everything?
I want to see it.
Good deal.
See it.
Please.
Bring it all. Bring it all. Anything else in the council? Very good. We have item 33, which is a treasurer's investment report as of June 30th of this year. Council have any questions or comments on the investment report? See none. Do you need action on that? Just to receive and file? Okay. Item 34 is direction concerning board and commission vacancy appointments. There are a number here. Administrative Appeals Board has 2, the airport has 1, Parks and Rec has 1, and Tramway Board has 2, scheduled for September of the end of this month, I believe. Isn't that right? Do we have applications? Has the council, I've been on vacation, I think we've all been out. Are there packets prepared with the applicants already sent to the council? Oh, they're right here. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good job. I've really been on vacation, haven't I? This is way in the back of the agenda. Okay, so the question is, council, do you want to prepare shortlisting? Do you want to schedule interviews? How do you want to proceed? In the past, we've had...
The majority of those applications, these subcommittees have has already reviewed, have already interviewed. So we can do more interviews with them. I'm just kind of seeking direction. You have these vacancies, and some of the commission chairs are calling me about them.
Mr. Mayor, for the Administrative Appeals Board, there are 2 vacancies, and we have one applicant, so
Actually, even though on some of them they say vacancy, they're not truly vacancy. The commissioners are required, are supposed to continue to serve until someone is appointed to fill their position. So, for instance, with the Administrative Appeals Board, Chairman Halball and Commissioner Don DeVore are both terms are up. So if you do decide to appoint the only application that I got, I would need for you to specify which position you are filling so that I can notify them.
The tramway, Lloyd Marinoff and Nancy Stewart have both reapplied, and I see no problem in just reappointing them.
is that a nomination?
That would be a nomination.
I'll second it.
Nomination by Mr. Rilla Spurgeon and second by Mr. Oden for reappointment of both
Yes.
members. And that is, again, the only one, the only 2 that have applied.
Yes.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is deemed 4-0 to reappoint both Mayor Lloyd Marinoff and Nancy Stewart back to the Tramway Board for another term. Again, we are not required to take action tonight. We are able to do so, but we're not required to do so. If you want to go ahead and reopen, get more applications. Have the prior applicants been informed of the openings? The ones that did not make it in Parks and Recreation? Were they notified that the openings are here, or are these just new applicants?
All the provisions, no, these are the ones that you previously did not select but did interview.
Okay.
And any new applications that were received are included in there also. The advertising has met all the requirements of the MATI Act.
Okay. I would like the ability to sit back and look at my past notes on the applicants, if I may, and bring this back at the next meeting, 2 weeks, to fill at least the remaining. I don't have my notes, so I can't recall, obviously, what happened on the interviews. But I think if I can just get a hold of those, take a look at it, we can bring it back for action at the next meeting. Council okay with that?
Sure.
But we did, in fact, deal with the Tramway Board for tonight, and I think that would be the council's pleasure. Do you want an action in that respect, Madam Clerk?
We did.
It's done.
No, I have your direction. You did make the appointment.
No, I mean, an action to continue to 2 weeks. All right, there you go. All right, any public reports or requests? Tired. But I was tired. You look tired. I know you're tired. Any staff reports or requests?
Mr. Mayor, I have 2 requests.
Yes, sir.
The first one, my cohort, Don Bradley, City Manager of Cathedral City, has called and made a request if we could have a council subcommittee to meet with the Cathedral City Council Subcommittee to discuss development on our common borders.
Okay. Council have any desire for that? Any recommendations on how you want to proceed?
I'll do.
Volunteer, Mr. Oden. Is there a second to volunteer to serve on that subcommittee?
I can't volunteer twice.
Any other member wishing to serve on that subcommittee? Silence is absolutely deafening, you know.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
I would like to do it, although time is a problem. So, I mean, I'd be willing to volunteer. It's just that, you know, I don't know how often we're going to meet or.
What do you believe the time commitment is, Mr. Ray?
Actually, there was no specified time commitment, and again, it could be at the discretion of the body. I believe one good session probably ought to raise the issues to the forefront, and that may be enough.
Well, I can't speak for the remaining members of the body, but this body wants a nice hot bath and a long night's sleep. And I got a second.
Okay, so
Can I get a witness?
Yes, you got it.
I will volunteer for the subcommittee as
Thank you,
well.
Mr. Mills. We have a subcommittee now formed, Mr. Oden and Mr. Mills. Anyone have any problem with that? I'm okay with it. Jeannie, you okay with that?
I like it.
I like it a lot. It's an excellent subcommittee. Mr. Reddy, you have a second report.
My second request, sir, is next week's study session, if we could have an adjourned meeting, item number 32 that we withdrew. Actually, the Planning Commission will reconsider that next week, hopefully with a quorum, and then we would ask that City Council consider it at their meeting.
All right, if you're bringing the agenda forward before Friday, I'll authorize that through signature. Council seems okay with it.
Thank you.
Bring that back for next week for a special meeting. One item at this time. One item.
I believe there'll be 2 items.
Okay. What's the second item? Item 32 and...
The item 32 in the second request is a reconsideration of the Plaza Theater contract.
A reconsiderations?
Yes, for an additional terms. There's been a request by the applicant.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a look at that.
And I would just note, Mr. Mayor, the reason is the 15th is a deadline that has been requested of us. Our next council meeting is the 17th, and the only other option would be the meeting on the 10th.
15th deadline is whose deadline?
It's Mr. Markowitz's deadline. The problem is that if we talked to you in closed session about the issue, and then you said, okay, go ahead and do something, and then we couldn't put it on until the next agenda after that, we would be past the 15th deadline that he has stated. So it would seem appropriate to deal with it in closed session and have it on the agenda so that you could take a public action at the same meeting.
Okay, but what is the deadline based upon?
He has
You got an approval last month. What's the deadline?
You approved it. He has not accepted one term in the condition in which it was approved, so he's not willing to sign the document, and he wants us to give him a document that he can sign by the 15th or else.
That's pretty much it.
And I don't know what or else means.
Okay, bring
Mr. Mayor.
Bring it, Mr. Rhodes.
It means the potential loss of the Follies. And I think the deadline was based upon the date when we started this, that there was a date that they would like to have had this taken care of. And that was September. Or did we pass it already?
Actually,
We
for
passed it.
September.
What was the first date?
August.
It was August 31st? And it was extended to the 15th.
Okay, bring it for next week. Let's take a look at it then. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be September 17th at 7 o'clock. Our next study session is September 10th at 7 p.m. We'll also add a special meeting on September 10th. And all of these meetings will be preceded by closed session at 5:30. It is now 10:35.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
What about item 36? This was Village Fest Board appointment.
36?
It's in mine.
Is it on your agenda?
It's in my book.
Should have been placed in.
Yeah, I don't have it. It should have been.
Wow.
I don't have it.
It's an appointment to the Village Fest Board for,
It says 36A.
yeah, for Jackie, for the jeweler.
Didn't we already do that?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
back of something.
That's got to be something.
Isn't that just your tag for 30, the number? It's just your tag number?
No, not on mine. Mine says it's an item 36A.
Yeah.
Who is that city clerk?
That's city clerk.
We made that appointment, did we not make? We already made that appointment, and even if we didn't, it's not agendized, so you couldn't take action on it because it's not agendized, so.
Hey, it's in my book. It's on the agenda.
It's got to be good enough. Is it on your blue agenda? All right, so. Again, okay, well. Nice printing press you got at your house, okay. Well, again, still, now it's 10:36, seeing no further business before the council, I will say goodnight on behalf of the council, and we'll stand adjourned.